Ready?
Yes, sir.
City Manager, you ready?
Yes.
Commissioner Everett,
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Mervin, Vice Mayor.
Yes.
Thank you. Lieutenant, are you ready?
Yes, sir.
Good seeing you back. Thank you. I call this workshop of Tuesday, June the 12th, 2018 at 6:05 to order. May we please stand for the invocation given by Deacon Coven and followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let's pray. Father, tonight we thank you for our city and for our leaders. And as they go about the business of our city this evening, God, I just ask you to give them your wisdom, Lord, that things will be done properly and according to your will. Bless this city, I pray, in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Mayor Babb,
Present.
Commissioner Everett,
Present.
Commissioner Hill, Vice Mayor Mervin,
Present.
Commissioner Walker, City Manager Williamson,
Here.
City Attorney, Lieutenant Piccolo,
Here.
City Clerk. Present.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, staff, and thank each of you all for being here tonight to participate in our workshop of Tuesday, June the 12th, 2018. At this time, we're going to turn this portion over to our city manager, who's going to lead us in our agenda discussion topic.
Thank you, Mayor, Commission, residents, visitors. Thanks for coming out this evening for our June 12th Commission meeting. We have a short agenda, a couple of presentations. Our ordinance tonight is our first reading for granting a P&L, Power and Light, our utility providers, an additional agreement for the city of Pahokee for the next 2 decades. The city attorney and the city manager have worked on this program, this agreement for quite some time. It's a good one. We kept in mind the needs of this city, and we had some forward thinking as far as what we will require in the future as it concerns utilities in the city of Pahokee. Of course, with those changes, there's always some type of fiscal connection. The city will be increasing, we'll be bringing in a little bit more revenue, and that's a good thing for the city of Pahokee, as well as address some of our significant needs as it comes to infrastructure here in the city of Pahokee. I do have with us some individuals from FP&L, representatives. Commissioner, if you want to just ask them some few questions here in the workshop about the agreement. This is first reading tonight, so I don't think, we really have to take a lot of questions, but if they want to just give a brief, 2 or 4 minute spill on that agreement, they're welcome to do that. And then we move down to resolutions. We have a resolution also on the Campground Marina paving construction. That's Genesis Construction. And we're going to have 2 additions tonight. One for an extension on the water plant agreement with Solid Waste Authority. As you know, they provided us $600,000 to do that demolition. We're just asking for some additional extension to do some more beautification around that area, possibly expend the remaining funds on some other things that we see, that are required in the city of Pahokee as it pertains to buildings that should be demolished. In addition to that, we have 2018-34. That is agreement, finally, for Glaze Citizens Villa project to get started. I know we've had a lot of spirited conversations about when that project will start, but this is the agreement tonight to begin the initial mobilization to start the renovations in Glaze Citizens Villa. So again, another project starting in the city of Pahokee, and we're very excited about that. Several presentations, MLK presentation, the Lawn of the Month presentation, and a presentation concerning former Commissioner Allie Biggs. And there'll be some additions to new business tonight as well. So right now, I want to back up and go back to Ordinance 2018-02, Mayor and Commission, and I want our representatives for FPNL to step forward and see if they can provide any additional questions, answers to any questions or concerns that you may have on this first reading. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'll just introduce myself real quick. So my name is Matt Pawlowski. I'm the External Affairs Manager for Florida Power and Light. We're very happy to be here tonight. We've been working with the city manager and the city attorney over the last couple months on getting to this point, and we thank them for their time, and we look forward to answering any questions that you may have. I also have with me here Pat Bryan, who's one of our attorneys, and Pat establishes and writes up the franchise agreement and can answer any kind of specific legal questions. But we think that this franchise agreement is very favorable to the city. It provides like the city manager said, provides additional revenue to the city from the franchise agreement. It is a 30-year agreement, and there's some specific things that Pat I'm sure can address, and we're looking forward to working with the city. In fact, we have a meeting on Thursday with the city manager as well to do some ride-along, to kind of drive around the city to look at specific areas. I think those are the kinds of things that we want to get engaged in to make sure that we provide the residents of Pahokee with the highest level of service. So with that, I'll turn it over to Pat.
Good evening. My name is Patrick Bryan. I am an attorney with Florida Power and Light Company. Thank you for having us tonight. I just want to add that the FPL has over 180 franchises throughout its service territory, and the franchise that you have before you is more or less on standard terms. And there were a couple of items that your city attorney and city manager worked on your behalf to improve the franchise. One is a favored nations provision, basically, that if other communities get a more favorable franchise rate, that Pahokee can come back to FPL and ask for that higher rate, meaning more revenues to the city. Right now, under this franchise, the city would get revenues each month equivalent to 6% of the revenues that FPL takes in the city from residential, commercial, and industrial accounts. And again, that's a standard term. Your current franchise is set to expire next year in 2019. The new franchise is a little better for the city in terms of revenues. In the old franchise, you'd get each month 90% of the franchise, and there was a 10% holdback for a true up at the end of the year. And in this franchise, you'll get 100% of the revenues you're entitled to each month. So we believe it's a good thing for the city. We have enjoyed our long-standing relationship with the city, and again, we're happy to answer any questions you may have.
Are any cities receiving a higher percentage than 6%?
No, sir. 6% is the highest rate that FPL has ever agreed to in the history of the company, as far as I can tell. And certainly in the current franchises, there's 182 or so. Most of them are at 5.9% or 6%, which is just a tenth of a point higher. Some are lower. The city can choose the rate it would like, but FPL will not agree to a rate higher than 6%.
Thank you. Storm preparation, this doesn't have anything to do with this particular resolution. What are you doing to ensure as much as possible that lights don't go off so quickly? And are you planning in the future to do underground wiring of residential and commercial properties?
Sure. So it's I'll give you probably a little bit of a longer answer than you want. There's a couple of things that we're doing. So one of the things, and I can certainly come back and give you a broader storm presentation if that's your wish. But just to answer your question, so we've learned a lot from all the different storms along the years. But I think one of the biggest things that we have going for us is we've invested over $3 billion over the last 10 to 15 years in our infrastructure. And that's helped us reduce a lot of outages, especially during storm. But not only reduce the outages, but also allow us to bring power back to residents quicker when there is storms that come through. So during Irma, for example, we saw a much quicker restoration time because of a lot of intelligent devices that we have on the system that we can remotely control, even in areas where there's flooding, for example, or excessive damage. But we've also took a lot of things from Irma, and such as communication and other things, to apply to the next storm season. We just finished our storm dry run about 3 weeks ago or so. That included members from Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office, the National Guard, all sorts of other entities that are in the state, including state government, to make sure that we are fully prepared for the next storm. As far as undergrounding goes, undergrounding is really dependent on what area you're in. So in a lot of more rural areas, the restoration time for overhead lines is actually much quicker than for underground. And we see that as a tremendous benefit when we bring in crews from out of state to help us out. Most of them can work very quickly on overhead lines. Underground lines take a little bit more expertise. Additionally, we actually, during Irma, we saw quite a bit of damage to underground lines as well, because what happens is you get a lot of vegetation that creates damage. When trees fall down, they'll pull the conduit right out of the ground, and then you actually end up with a larger problem than you had before. So we have targeted specific areas for undergrounding. We're working through on kind of piloting a lot of areas to see what impacts it's going to have. But I think the more important thing for the city of Pahokee is we have that we discussed with the city managers, we actually have a hardening plan for a lot of the major feeders that come into the city to harden the facilities that are coming into the city, because that's going to ensure us a more reliable service to the city. So by hardening poles, by putting concrete poles in, by putting larger wood poles as well, strengthening the lines, putting more intelligent devices out there, that's what's going to help you get restoration much quicker to the city. So it's a larger kind of combination answer, but we think that the plans that we currently have and the future plans for hardening are going to help the city tremendously.
Thank you.
Any additional questions, Commission, on this first reading of our franchise agreement with FPNL?
Well, he answered one of them, because I was going to ask about the change out from the wood poles to the concrete poles, during hurricane season.
Yeah, and I'll tell you one other interesting thing about that is what we're finding out is it's kind of interesting. Concrete poles are not always the answer. And I'll tell you, yeah, that's exactly right. So what happens is concrete poles are generally in a square shape, which means that they actually take a lot more wind resistance because of that shape, so the wind doesn't go around it. So there's locations that we've identified on the system by having our technical experts look at it, where by placing a little bit of a larger wood pole, makes it can withstand much larger winds and much stronger conditions for a storm than a concrete pole would. In addition to that, the thing, and I lead, one of my roles is we all have assignments for FPL. When you work for FPL, we have a storm assignment. So you kind of come away from your regular job and go into a storm role. So my role is I'm a production lead, which means I take crews from out of state and I'm basically their eyes and ears on the ground and help them lead restoration. So I actually worked in Belglade for a couple days for Irma. But one of the things that we saw is when we have snap poles or we have broken poles, it's a lot easier to fix a wood pole than it is to put a concrete pole. And the primary difference is having a crane or not having a crane. The trucks that we have that we can send out, that we have a lot of, can put wood poles in all day long. You don't need a specialized crane, you don't need a crane operator. The guys who are the linemen out there can just put it in. It takes about an hour and a half or so to put a pole in. If you had to get a crane out there, there's obviously only a limited set of cranes, so it makes our restoration time a lot better. So, again, larger answer than you probably wanted to know, but a little bit of education along the way.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you.
Any additional questions?
So basically, in your opinion, underground lines are basically an issue of aesthetics. In your opinion, and you're finding that overhead wires are better in cases of of storms?
It
if I'm
really,
hearing you correctly?
yeah, it really depends on the area. It's really a case by case basis, and that's why we're doing a pilot in certain areas to actually evaluate some of that.
Okay.
You know, you have some of these newer communities in certain areas in Florida where they automatically underground everything, and that's great. But for areas that we already have overhead, we're really doing an evaluation of where it's going to make sense and where it's not.
Okay.
And he's more the expert, but areas that are prone to flooding are not areas that are good for undergrounding for obvious reasons.
Okay. All right, guys. Thank you very much. Again, this is our first reading tonight at our regular commission meeting that we'll be moving forward with our franchise agreement. If there's any additional questions between now and our next commission meeting for second reading, we'll certainly reach out to FP&L to get those questions answered. We may ask you to come back for the second reading, just in case we have any additional questions once the city attorney returns with us. But I think we had a good agreement, Commission, that we can move forward with the first reading tonight for our franchise agreement. So, thank you very much.
That's good.
Resolution 2018-32, that is another agreement with one of our selected vendors for more construction that's occurring at the marina. This is our paving and construction for all of the parking, paving, and all asphalt at the marina. You'll see some additional areas being provided for parking for the boat ramps, and then you'll see some additional parking created for anticipation of a larger patronage at the restaurant on the west end of the marina. So Genesis is a good company. They're actually the company that's working on another project here in town, and we have full confidence that the project that they're going to do at the marina, along with the other 5 vendors, will be very pleasing for this community as we continue to renovate the marina for preparation for management by Everglades Reserve Holding. So, any questions about that resolution? And it's 2018-33, not 32, as printed in our agenda for tonight. Correction. Okay. Presentations, I don't think we have all of the documents required for lawn of the month. I may be taking that off the agenda, but I'll see at the regular commission meeting if we have all those documents that we need for tonight for lawn of the month. If it pleases the commission and mayor, if you would like me to provide city manager updates at this time, we have some time before 6:30. I can do so at this time.
That'll be fine.
Thank you. The old water plant, as indicated in your monthly report, we're at about 85% completion. If you've driven by the old water plant, it's significantly demolished. We estimate now, hopefully by the end of this week, that entire structure will be down on the ground, and then from there, it will just take a continuous effort to remove all the debris from the site. And so we do have an end date of mid-July, and that's just getting all of the debris out and removed. And then they'll begin the secondary phases of preparing the grading, the leveling of the foundation to prepare it for some type of economic development in the near future. So it's exciting to see that project come alive and take place in the city of Pahokee. It's been a long-standing blighted building in Pahokee for quite some time. And so, again, that's an opportunity to prepare for future economic development in the city of Pahokee. If you've taken notice, the old Pahokee High School is being worked on at this time. The company that's doing that renovation, what they will be doing to the old Pahokee High School is an exterior renovation. They will be pressure washing the entire building inside and out, which wasn't included in the original quote from them, the interior, but they'll be doing the exterior pressure washing. They're going to repaint the whole building. They're going to add some aesthetics as far as new landscaping. We discussed a nice aesthetic looking, as if you can walk up to the building and open it. So they're going to be doing some very creative things with the exterior of this building that makes it appear that is actually operational until we can find the funds to do the interior renovations. But they did a little extra for us. They went inside and they started actually gutting and cleaning out the interior of the building because they didn't want to enclose it and leave it as is, and then we have to open it up one day and go inside and really start cleaning it out. So they did some extra work for us in the interiors of the building itself before they enclose it. And once they enclose it, it will be protected from weather and rain and any type of rodents that they have also gotten rid of in this building as well. So it's rodent-free. It's pressure washed on the inside as well in some areas. All of the debris has been removed, and when they enclose it, they'll seal it up tightly to ensure that nothing can invade the interior parts of this building until we can come back and make some major interior renovations. But I've seen a replica of what the building will look like, and it's really, really pleasing to the eye. And so I'll hold back on that, and I'll sort of let them do their work with this particular structure here at Parks and Recreation. But again, that's another surtax project that's off the shelf and has been implemented here in the city of Pahokee. Marina renovations. There's been a lot of questions about closings and openings at the marina. That will continue to happen over the next 2 to 3 months. We've had this discussion previously that as we go to full operation with renovations and construction, it's a construction zone. And so that will require that we close major parts of the marina as that construction and renovations occur. And then it will require, once we complete certain parts, to reopen. But right now, we're probably looking at closing, probably 90% of the marina over the next several days because we have to get these projects up and running. We have to allow the construction workers and those who are doing the renovations to work freely, uninterrupted by us visitors and tourists. And it's also for safety. So I want to just be clear about that. That it's real more about safety and allowing these contractors and these projects to take root and move forward and stay on a timeline. So as we move forward, you'll have discussions, you'll get questions in the community about why parts of the marina is closed. But with the safety barriers that we're bringing in, we'll be able to control traffic for those who come in with renovations as campers, those construction workers who are identified as construction workers. Of course, PVSO has, their free access and staff. So the campground will be operational for campers, and so will it be for fishing as well. But there will be times when the marina will close for renovations, and it will be the majority of the marina. Doesn't mean it's going to remain closed forever. It doesn't mean we're taking away amenities. It's just saying we need time to do full renovations on this marina uninterrupted. So please be patient with us as we work through these projects. If you have any questions, please call the city of Pahokee. We try to keep our project manager on site, available to all of our contractors for questioning or for any changes in renovations, or to just answer general questions as well. But I want to ensure that we have a clear line of communication with the public, that if we have any questions about what's occurring at the marina, please give the city a call so we can clarify, so there's no misinformation, because I've been able to, sort of prevent any type of misinformation going out to the public as far as the projects are concerned. But there are some questions out there that occur after hours, and people are trying to answer those questions, and the best people to answer those questions is the city or our project manager. So please give us an opportunity to give you a first-class marina. I think we're going to have that with the managers that are coming in for this marina and the changes that are taking place.
Okay, what we'll do.
I can stop here and
Yes.
finish at the regular
Thank
commission meeting. Thank you.
At this time, I adjourn the workshop, and we'll immediately convene our regular commission meeting. Are you ready, city clerk?
Yes.
Are you ready, city manager?
Yes.
You ready, Commissioner Walker?
Yes.
Commissioner Everett?
Yes.
Commissioner Vice Mayor Mervin.
Yes.
Commissioner Hill, are you ready?
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am. I call this meeting of Pahokee City Commission, regular commission meeting of Tuesday, June the 12th, 2018 at 6:31 to order. May we please stand for the invocation given by Mr. Bobby Coven, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let's pray. Father, again tonight, we're thankful for our city. And Lord, as we go about the business of this city, I ask you to give our leaders special wisdom, Lord. For so many decisions that have to be made. Guide them, Lord, and help our city to grow and to prosper. And now we thank you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Covert, for that invocation. Thank you, City Clerk. Thank you, Commissioners. Thank you, staff. And thank each of you all for being here tonight to participate in our regular commission meeting of Tuesday, June 12th, 2018. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Mayor Bab,
Yes, present.
Commissioner Everett,
Present.
Commissioner Hill, Vice Mayor Mervin,
Present.
Commissioner Walker,
Present.
City Manager,
Here.
City Attorney, Lieutenant Piccolo,
Here.
City Clerk, present.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Thank you, Commissioners. We'll also like to recognize in attendance South Bay City Manager Campbell. Thank you for being here, sir. Always a pleasure. And again, thank each of y'all for being here. We're going to move right along through our agenda. This is a short, should be a short meeting. First business is the additions, deletions, and approval of agenda items. City Manager, at this time, we have any add-ons?
Yes, Mayor, we have Resolution 2018-34, Resolution City Commissioner of the City of Pahokee authorizing, directing Mayor to execute the Glaciers and Village Stormwater Improvement Agreement. That's Resolution 2018-34. Next resolution is Resolution 2018-35. That's just an amendment on our extension with the Solid Waste Authority's grant for the demolition project at the old water plant. Resolution 2018-35. We have an action form for the city clerk that could be new business. And that's it, Mayor. And because we don't have all of the documents for Lawn of the Month, I think we need to recognize them tonight and then bring them back again for the next commission meeting for that presentation, if it pleases the commission, for Lawn of the Month.
And I would like to have one add-on just for discussion purposes and information purposes. It's the discussion of yard sales, kind of just give an overview of where we can have yard sales, where vendors can actually sell and things along that line. We did have some discussion at the last commission meeting, and we didn't give the audience any final resolution. So
Okay, we can
wanted
add that to
just
new
share
business?
that. Yes,
Sure.
sir.
Okay, new business. All right. That's, that concludes additions, deletions, Mayor, for the agenda.
Okay. Haven't heard the,
I want clarify on the resolutions. Head on.
okay,
I want clarification.
okay.
Ma'am?
Could you just clarify the two add-ons that being added?
Resolutions 2018-34, that's an agreement with one of our marina projects to move forward. They have already actually moved forward, so we actually be ratifying that tonight. So that's a project at the marina, 2018-34. The other resolution we're adding on is 2018-35. That is a resolution to approve just an extension of a current project, the Solid Waste Authority grant, the demolition at the old water plant. We're just requesting 6-month additional extension. It might not take that long, but they granted us 6 more additional months to do all the beautification requirements in the city under this grant. Typically, the grant would have expired in May of this year, but we have some additional things we need to do at that site, and we want to expend all of the dollars in the grant that was provided to us that we already currently have in our account, and so we just need additional couple of months to expend all of those funds.
Thank you.
City Manager, 2018-34, that's Glade Citizen Villa, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you, City Manager. Haven't had the add-ons explained it. I'll entertain a motion for the adoption of the agenda with the stated add-ons.
Mr. Mayor, if I'm in order, I would like to offer a motion that we accept this agenda with the additions as they have been indicated.
I'll second.
It has been moved by Commissioner Everett and properly seconded by Vice Mayor Mervin. Call for questions. Hearing none, are you ready for vote? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Everett,
Yes?
Vice Mayor Mervin,
Yes.
Commissioner Hill, Commissioner Walker,
Yes.
Mayor Bab.
Yes. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Thank you, Commissioners. The agenda item passes by unanimous vote. Now we have citizen comments. Must be an agenda item only. City Clerk, do we have any comments card at this time?
No, we do not.
Thank you, ma'am. No, ma'am, you got a couple minutes. We normally take comments cards up till 15 minutes after starting the meeting, so just got a few minutes. We're moving. Okay.
In the lobby.
We'll come back to that item to allow citizen to comment on agenda items. We'll move to our public service announcement. Also must have a public service comment card completed. City Clerk, at this time, do we have any public service announcements?
No, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. We'll move to the approval of the minutes, May 8th, 2018, regular scheduled commission meeting. What's your pleasure, City Commission?
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes for May 8th, 2018, regular scheduled commission meeting.
Thank you, ma'am. Looking for a second.
Second?
It has been moved by Vice Mayor Mervin and properly seconded by Commissioner Everett for the approval of the May 8th, 2018 regular scheduled commission meeting. Call for questions. Hearing none. Are you ready for vote? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Vice Mayor Mervin,
Yes.
Commissioner Everett,
Yes?
Commissioner Hill, Commissioner Walker,
Yes.
and Mayor Bab.
Yes. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Thank you, Commissioners. The minutes of May 8th, 2018 has been approved by unanimous vote. Now we have the minutes of the May 29th, 2018 regular schedule, special scheduled commission meeting. What's your pleasure, City Commission?
Mayor, I make a motion to approve minutes for May 29th, 2018, special scheduled commission meeting.
Second?
It has been moved by Vice Mayor Mervin and properly seconded by Commissioner Everett for the approval of the May 29th, 2018 special scheduled commission meeting. Call for questions. Hearing none. Are you ready for vote? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Vice Mayor Mervin,
Yes.
Commissioner Everett,
Yes?
Commissioner Hill, Commissioner Walker,
Yes.
Mayor Bab.
Yes. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Thank you, Commissioners. The May 29th, 2018 special scheduled commission meeting has been approved by a unanimous vote. We don't have any consent agenda items. We'll move on to our ordinance 2018-04. 2022 on first reading. City Manager, could you read this into the minutes?
Yes. Mayor, Commission, this ordinance number 2018-02, an ordinance granting Florida Power and Light Company its successors and assigns an electric franchise imposing provisions and conditions relating thereto, providing for monthly payments to the City of Pahokee and providing for an effective date. Whereas the City Commission of the City of Pahokee, Florida recognizes that the City of Pahokee and its citizens need and desire the continued benefits of electric service, whereas the provision of such service requires substantial investment, capital, and other resources in order to construct, maintain, operate facilities essential to provisions of such service in addition to costly administrative functions, and the City of Pahokee does not desire to undertake to provide such services. Whereas Florida Power and Light Company is a public utility which has demonstrated the ability to supply such services, and whereas there is currently in effect a franchise agreement between the City of Pahokee and FP&L, the terms of which are set forth in the City of Pahokee Ordinance number 89-3, passed and adopted March 28, 1989, and FP&L's written acceptance thereof dated March 30th, 1989, granting to FP&L its successors and assigns a 30-year electric franchise agreement. Whereas FP&L and the City of Pahokee desire to enter into a new agreement providing for the payment of fees to the City of Pahokee in exchange for non-exclusive right and privilege of supplying electricity and other services within the City of Pahokee free of competition from the City of Pahokee pursuant to certain terms and conditions. And whereas the City of Commission of the City of Pahokee deems it to be in the best interest of the City of Pahokee and its citizens to enter into a new franchise agreement prior to expiration of the current franchise agreement. This agreement, Mayor, Commission provides for a new franchise agreement with FP&L. We have representatives here tonight to discuss what this franchise agreement will entail. This is a first reading of this agreement tonight.
Okay. Commissioners, we have heard from the LPL representative at our workshop. Do anyone desire to have them address the commission again at this time? Hearing none. Having had Ordinance 2018-02 properly read into the minutes, what's your pleasure, City Commission?
Mr. Mayor, if I'm in order, I would like to accept Ordinance 2018-2, first reading, granting to Florida Power and Light Company its successor and assigns an electric franchise. Like to accept the first reading of this ordinance as read in our hearing.
And I'll second.
It has been moved by Commissioner Everett and properly seconded by Vice Mayor Mervin for the adoption of Ordinance 2018-02 on its first reading. Call for questions. Hearing none, are you ready for vote? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Everett,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Mervin,
Yes.
Commissioner Hill,
No.
Commissioner Walker,
Yes.
Mayor Bab.
Yes. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Thank you, Commissioners. Ordinance 2018-02 passes on its first reading. We'll have a second reading and a public hearing at our next commission meeting. And again, thank the LPNAR representative just for the ordinance information. We are receiving 6%, which is the highest in the state. Some folks are getting that, but we are certainly at the top, and we appreciate that arrangement. Now we'll move to resolutions. We now will entertain Resolution 2018-32. City Manager, could you properly read this into the minutes?
Mayor and Commission, this is a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Pahokee, Florida, authorizing and directing the mayor to execute the campground and marina paving and parking lot reconstruction agreement between A Genesis Construction LLC and the City of Pahokee. Whereas this campground and marina paving and parking lot construction agreement is entered into by and between A Genesis Construction LLC and the City of Pahokee, whereas the parties desire to enter into this agreement in order to define the expectations of each party with regards to the project, identify the services to be provided by A Genesis Construction LLC, and outline process to be allowed. Mayor and Commission, this is an agreement with A Genesis Construction to provide them the commencement of the parking lot renovations at the entire marina area. That includes the public side where the marina is located, the restaurant, conference room, etc. In your packet, you have some detailed definitions of what they'll be doing. Most of it will be restriping. They will be providing a new paved road on the public side where the public park is designated. They'll be doing creating some additional parking in other areas of the marina as well. So overall, they will be providing us a much needed facelift for the parking improvements within this entire project for the marina. So that is the agreement for Genesis Construction.
Thank you, City Manager. City Commission, having had Resolution 2018-32 properly read into the minutes and provide an explanation by the City Manager. What's your pleasure?
Mr. Mayor, if I'm in order, I make a motion to accept Resolution 2018-33, which has been read in our hearing.
2018-33.
33?
That's what I said, 33.
Okay.
I second.
It has been moved by Commissioner Everett and properly seconded by Vice Mayor Mervin for the adoption of Resolution 2018-33. Call for questions. Hearing none. Are you ready for vote? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Everett,
Yes.
Commissioner Hill, Vice Mayor Mervin,
Yes.
Commissioner Hill. Yes. Commissioner Walker. Mayor Bab.
Yes. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Thank you, Commissioners. Resolution 2018-33 passes by a unanimous vote. Now we'll have Resolution 2018-34. City Manager.
Mayor Commission, a resolution, City of Commission of the City of Pahokee, Florida, authorizing and directing the mayor to execute the Glazed Citizens Villa Stormwater Improvement Project agreement between Weekly Asphalt and Paving Incorporated and the City of Pahokee. Whereas this Glazed Citizens Villa Stormwater Improvement Project agreement is entered into by and between Weekly Asphalt and Paving Incorporated and the City of Pahokee, and whereas the parties desire to enter into this agreement in order to define expectations of each party with regards to the project, identify the services to be provided by Weekly Asphalt Paving and Incorporated, and outline the process to be allowed. Mayor, Commission, this is another project in the Glazed Citizens Villa community that was funded by the legislature in the 2017 legislative session. This particular project will provide some much improved solutions to some of the stormwater issues over there, as in addition, we repave all of the streets in this particular community. This project is a long time coming for this community. We've talked about it extensively here in this chamber and in the community. The residents there have asked many questions when the project will start. This agreement then now allows for the initial mobilization and the commencement of this project. I want to be very clear to the commissioners that once this project starts, there will be a lot of redirecting of traffic in this particular community. The project will not get done in 2 weeks. This is not a long-term project, but it will take, above 60 to 90 days to get significantly through this project before we see any real candid results for this community. So I ask that this community be patient with this project. We have anticipated that weather will play a significant role in construction. When it rains, there's no construction work going on. So that day will be a missed day of construction. And so we have to continue educating our residents that even though projects will come off the shelf, there's a timeline and a gap that we have to account for that's unforeseen. And that's for weather and other issues that may occur. And so there's never an exact end date on a construction project. If you can find a general contractor, he will honestly tell you they can't give you an end date on a construction project. It'll never happen. But we do have an NTP, notice to proceed, to this contractor, therefore meaning they have a certain amount of days once you agree to this tonight that they must begin mobilization in this community. So again, this is a $635,000 project. a project that we got awarded through our hard work up in Tallahassee in 2017. And again, we're excited to see this project begin in Glade Citizens Villa.
Thank you, City Manager. City Commissioners, having had Resolution 2018-34 properly read into the minutes, what's your pleasure?
Mr. Mayor, if I'm in order, I'd like to make a motion that we accept Resolution 2018-34, Glade Citizen Villa, for our acceptance tonight.
I will second that.
It has been moved by Commissioner Everett and properly seconded by Vice Mayor Mervin for the adoption of Resolution 2018-34. Call for questions. Hearing none, are you ready for vote? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Everett,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Mervin,
Yes.
Commissioner Hill,
Yes.
Commissioner Walker,
Yes, sir.
Mayor Bab.
Yes. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Thank you, Commissioners. Resolution 2018-34 passes by a unanimous vote. Now we'll entertain Resolution 2018-35.
Mayor Commission, this is a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Pahokee, Florida, authorizing and directing the mayor to execute the amendment number 1 for SWA blighted and distressed property cleanup and beautification grant agreement between Solid Waste Authority of Palm Beach County and the City of Pahokee. Whereas an agreement was made between Solid Waste Authority of Palm Beach County and the City of Pahokee on February 9th, 2018, and whereas the parties desire to extend the term of the agreement for 6 additional months. Mayor, Commission, this is just an extension of a project that's currently occurring at the old water plant. We requested some additional time to expend all of the funds provided to us on this particular project and to address some additional beautification that's required. And so this is just a formality for us to say, can you please give us some additional time to complete this project? They have so granted us that extension here this evening for your pleasure.
Thank you, City Manager. City Commissioners, having had Resolution 2018-35 properly read into the minutes, what's your pleasure?
Mr. Mayor, if I'm in order, I would like to offer motion that we accept Resolution 2018-35 SWA agreement for our acceptance tonight.
And I second.
It has been moved by Commissioner Everett and properly seconded by Vice Mayor Mervin for the adoption of Resolution 2018-35. Call for questions.
Yes, I do have one. It just came to me, please pardon me. City Manager, the other areas, have the areas been identified that we're looking at targeting?
Not at this time. Again,
Okay.
this is just specifically to expend all the funds on this particular project. That's an offline conversation we can have as far as where those additional funds will be applied. At this time, we're only concentrating on the old water plant.
Okay.
One question, what about the old water tower? Would it be able to use, for the old water tower?
As far as what's
The additional
concerned,
funds, if there's any funds left over?
possibly. Yeah.
Remember we talked about not painting it, but what's that other process?
Wrapping.
Wrapping. Maybe we can look into the cost of that and see how much that will cost. But that would certainly beautify the site and make that water tower look a lot desirable. Any additional questions? Hearing none, are you ready for vote? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Everett,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Mervin,
Yes.
Commissioner Hill,
Yes.
Commissioner Walker,
Yes.
Mayor Bab.
Yes. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Thank you, Commissioners. Resolution 2018-35 passes by a unanimous vote. Now we'll move into our presentations. We have the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Scholarship Award. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. It gives me really great pleasure to talk about this scholarship. It's personal to me because I thought this was something that was needed here in the city of Pahokee. And I felt that, you know, creating a Dr. Martin Luther King scholarship, when I first talked about creating this scholarship with my own personal funds, I probably got beside myself that night when I said I'm going to give $1,200 of my own personal money to start this scholarship. And but it's, you know, rewarding for myself to give back to this community in any possible way I can beyond this administrative role that I serve. And I'm hoping that the Dr. Martin Luther King Scholarship annual award will be supported by our churches in this community. Tonight it's a $1,200 award that's going to a graduating Pahokee High senior that's on her way to college. But hopefully next year it's $2,400 for a graduating senior here in the city of Pahokee. But tonight we want to recognize and honor Aubriana Bent as the first awardee for this annual award. Ms. Bent is a graduated, well, has graduated from Pahokee High School in 2018. And one part of this scholarship application is they had to fill out the application, and of course, then they had to, you know, write a nice little story about who they are, their hopes and dreams for their future careers, and where they expect life to take them once they graduate from high school. And we had some very competitive graduating seniors that applied this year for this first-time award, but Aubriana Bent really stood out here in this selection process. And I just want to read a couple of things before we call her up. And this is what she said, and I hope I'm okay to read this tonight. Dr. King never gave up, no matter how many people were against him and the obstacles that were in his way. Through that, I fight because it allows me to be stronger and accomplish a lot more. She goes on to say, I am active in Dream Catchers, Speech and Debate, National Honor Society, Spanish Honor Society, Student Government, the Interact, soccer, volleyball, track and field. Community service also gives me fulfillment. Helping the ones around me and making my community a better place gives me satisfaction, and I will continue to do so over the years. I've also volunteered at the Alzheimer's and nursing homes, providing assistance, playing games, and conversing with patients. It gives me great joy to help people that are in need. My career goal is to become a psychiatrist, or a trauma surgeon, which will allow me to come back to the Glades and volunteer at schools informing kids, or do much more important work in the healthcare field for our residents and citizens here in the Glades. This is just excerpts of what she wrote that really stood out to us. Finally, she said, I have a dream that one day I will become successful, and no one can ever take that away from me, especially my educational process. And so that's rewarding to hear that. Mayor, if you and Commissioner, if you want to join me down now, we had to check at the, I brought it over to the school and take some pictures, but I thought it was appropriate to recognize her officially here at our commission meeting. She's on her way to UCF in several weeks. That's where she'll be matriculating, as they say, in her undergraduate studies. Her first payment will come in August when a regular session starts, and so I'll be keeping in touch with her, and we'll be keeping our eyes on you over the next several years, because there will be more awardees like you coming. And she also gets to come back at the MLK extravaganza, and she's on a float in 2019.
Well, the city manager has really said it all, but on behalf of the city commission, Vice Mayor Mervin, Commissioner Everett, Commissioner Walker, Commissioner Hill, and myself as mayor, we would like to congratulate you on the first Martin Luther King scholarship. One of the things I was going to encourage you to do is consider coming back home once you graduate to help improve your city but I see you already had included that in your letter, so thank you so much. And if you would, without putting any pressure on you, say a few words after we take a photo.
Let's take the picture.
Even though I already knew I won the scholarship, it's still a shock to me. And I'm very grateful to be standing up here receiving this. It will help me a lot in college, and I will definitely come back to improve Pahokee. I have a lot of family here, so it wouldn't be right not coming back. So again, I want to thank everyone that is standing up here with me and supporting me through my journey through my new journey. So thank you.
Again, congratulations. We actually could have stayed down, but our next presentation is Lawn of the Month. We'll have our city manager give highlights of the winners. And then we'll come back down.
Are the Osborns here tonight? I don't see
He's
them.
here.
One of them, okay, all right. Monthly, we give the Lawn of the Month award to a deserving homeowner here in the city of Pahokee. We created this award in 2017 to encourage that our homeowners continue to take pride as they do now in their homes, in their lawns, and providing us an opportunity as a city to highlight our residents here in the city of Pahokee. And so this month, Brenda and Toby Osborne, located on Kismet in the city of Pahokee, are our monthly awardees for the Lawn of the Month. We don't have the documents here tonight, so we're going to have them come back at the next commission meeting as well, and we'll highlight them again for Lawn of the Month, and then we actually be announcing another Lawn of the Month as well at the end of June. But I had an opportunity to go look at their lawn, and it's really heavy competition on Kismet Avenue. We have one of our commissioners that live on Kismet, and they really get into the competition of who has the best lawn. And we want to continue. We also put this nice sign in the yard as well. And so when you drive by the home, you see Lawn of the Month announced in the lawn, on the front lawn. It really brings out competition in our residents and homeowners, and that's what we want. We want residents to take pride in their homes, take pride in their lawn, because in the end, if that becomes, you know, how can I say, a sickness in the city of Pahokee, we will really have something to highlight here in the city of Pahokee as a whole. And it only helps. You know, good competition of this type is what I really enjoy giving. And this award carries a $75 check, which we will give at the next commission meeting. But at this time, I just wanted to recognize them as really great homeowners and partners with the city of Pahokee. There's some heavy competition on that street. There's heavy competition across the city of Pahokee. We really have some great homeowners here in the city of Pahokee that take pride in their homes. And so we want that to spread to every home on every street. Now, of course, I can't award everybody every month, but we try to do our best. And this month we had 3 homes that we had to select from, and it was very difficult. But what we try to do is come back and add those homes that weren't awarded this month to the consideration for the following months. So again, Brenda and Toby Osborne, thank you so much for all of your hard work and what you do with your lawn every month. We appreciate that. Thank you very much. And we'll see you at the next commission meeting.
We're going to do this again, but we're going to go down again and congratulate Mr. Osborne. He's here, and show him some love.
Yeah.
You will receive your official check at our next commission meeting, but on behalf of the Pahokee City Commission, Commissioner Vice Mayor Mervin, Commissioner Everett, Commissioner Walker, Commissioner Hill, and myself would like to congratulate you and your wife. I know everyone know how hard it is to have a beautiful lawn. Even if you have help doing it, it takes a lot of work. So we really appreciate your effort. We know it's contagious, like the city manager indicated, that people will look at your lawn and want to get in that competition, say next month it'll be my lawn. So again, we appreciate you for that, and we'll be addressing you again at our next commission meeting. And we're going to encourage you early to spend some of that money, not most of it, here at Pahokee. If you want to say a few words, you can. Thank you. Thank you. We're going to stay here, Commissioners. We don't have to walk down. We have one more presentation, and it's to our former Commissioner, Allie Biggs. Would you come up, Ms. Biggs? Most of y'all know Commissioner Biggs lost most of her possession in a house fire. And one of the possessions she lost was her flag. That flag was given by L.C. Hastings, and it was flown over the Capitol. And most losses like that, it's not the money. Sometimes it's the material thing, those sentimental value. We can't replace that flag. This flag certainly wasn't flew over Washington, but we wanted to give her this flag in recognition of that award she received. So when she do pass by it in her new residence, she would always remember having that flag. I know the value of it. I received one myself. It's a duplication of it, and we hope to show Ms. Commissioner Biggs some love, and I'm going to have Commissioner Vice Mayor Everett present this flag to Ms. Mervin, present the flag to Commissioner Biggs.
Mom Biggs, sorry, that's what I call her. This is an honor to give this to you. I remember 3 years ago, you hand me the baton to when I became commissioner. So this is an honor for me to give this to you. I love you. I appreciate you for all your wisdom and your guidance that you have given me so far. So this is your flag. Thanks, Mom, for all you do for the city of Pahokee.
One thing we did this time was put it in a case for some extra protection. The original flag wasn't in a case, so we did kind of up the ante just a little.
Thank you so very much, Mayor, Manager, Commissioners, all of you and the citizens of Pahokee. This is a blessing because really it did make a difference. Mayor, thank you so much for remembering that. I had bought a case, had it all fixed up and loving it. But to God be the glory, you all, somebody remembered. So thank you. I love you. I love you. I love you.
And we're not going to tell Commissioner Biggs' age, but I don't know how she continued to do it. She can still outwork all of us. She beat to a lot of meetings. She haven't slowed down any, not 1 second. Thank you again, Commissioner Biggs. And put getting Vice Mayor Mervin's name incorrect on my eyesight. It's getting better, but I'm not there yet. Real close. Can't use that excuse at the next commission meeting, though. Now we are moving to the mayor's report.
Mayor, you're going back to the citizen comments, do you remember?
Oh, yes. we'll do that. We'll allow citizen the opportunity to have comments if they already have completed a comment card. Madam Clerk, at this time, do we have any comments card?
We have Ms. Carolyn Kennedy.
Hi, good evening, residents of Pahokee. My name's Carolyn Kennedy. I live in Pahokee and have a business in Pahokee. I have a trucking company on Barfield Highway. I was just curious, hearing about all the projects that are going on. Basically, I was curious if there were if it was given, if they were being bidded, or were they just being given out? And if there was consideration about the diversity that's taking place in the county of Palm Beach right now, especially with using local preference, people locally. And I've just been interested in finding out what's going on with that.
City Manager, you think you can briefly kind of entertain
Can I
that?
ask one quick question, please? Is the YouTube the official station for the information here?
No, our official information is our website and our Facebook, but when we broadcast, you can catch it on the internet through YouTube.
Okay, because I've been sent a few of the YouTube videos, so that's really why I decided to come in and check.
Understood.
And see.
Yeah. Just to answer her question, the only project that was bidded on, and then we had to do a revision through our ordinance to do quotes, was the marina, based on some issues with the awarded vendor that won that entire contract. All of the projects that you heard thereafter were properly bidded on in the city of Pahokee. And if you want those documents, we certainly can provide who those bidders were for that work. Subsequently, I'm glad you brought that up, because I was just joking with someone today that if you look very closely at the marina, the majority of the vendors there are very diverse and of minority content, meaning we have a very diverse selection of contractors that are running that entire $1.2 million project. And I was very sensitive to that fact, that we needed representation of all of the landscape when it comes to contractors on our projects. Yes, ma'am.
Is there a procurement person for Pahokee?
Yes. Yes. Again, if you want to come to City Hall, I can, direct you to that individual. And if you have any other additional questions about our process for bidding and how we select, we'll provide you that information. Yeah. But I would encourage, all of our contractors to, one, be very keenly aware of our website, because that's where we do all our announcing of our particular bids from the website and from the official Palm Beach Post, as well as required. So I tell contractors all the time that I can't call them, that they have to be in tune to what our projects are and what's coming off the shelf and what's being advertised. It's not appropriate for me to call contractors and say, hey, bid. We don't do that. So that's how we do our announcements for our projects. So, and I certainly want to include all of our minority contractors in our projects. So I encourage them to watch our website for those announcements.
Who is the curb? Who is our curb
Procurement officer. By ordinance, that is designated as the city manager, but I spread those responsibilities out between my finance and my director of community economic development and our city clerk. They develop the bid documents for bidding and for advertising, and then they collect those bids, and then subsequently, collectively, they announce the pre-bid meeting, and they participate in the actual bid opening of the documents. I kind of remove myself, even though the ordinance said I am the procurement senior officer, I remove myself from the process and allow the actual staff to actually do the procurement development and completion of any project that we have for the public.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you, City Manager.
Mm-hmm.
Now we'll move to the mayor report. Just want to acknowledge Ms. Wilson, Mayor McKinley A. in attendance, if she haven't left.
I think she left.
She have left? Okay. And also we have with us this afternoon Miss Linda, who will be opening a dance studio next to Save a Lot. We just want to recognize her. Could you stand, Ms. Linda? It's a new business. So happy to have you. Again, we just want to encourage our residents to always, if possible, support our local businesses. I again want to thank the Chamber of Commerce. Last month, I was named the Citizen of the Year, and it still just touches, just even talking about it. I couldn't even say an acceptance speech. I was just moved to tears, to be honest. But from the bottom of my heart, I'd like to thank the Chamber and their Board of Directors for that honor. I certainly appreciate that, and I'm going to work hard to try to live up to that standard. I also want to remind the City Commission that in an efforts to get our youth involved and more active in the community and our local government, we have reinstated the Youth Council. And I just want to encourage you to continue to seek out applicants. We should all be appointing one youth on that particular council, so we can move forward with getting them acted. Ms. Warner have been soliciting applications. She have a few. We don't have 5 yet, but I would just want to encourage each of us as individual commissioners to seek out and try to recruit at least one youth that you may consider may be interested on that. I spoke with the president of the Student Government Association of the middle school, and I just knew I had the right person, at least for my appointment, but she lives in Belglade, and this particular appointment, as all of our board, must live within the city of Pahokee. So I'm just encouraging, continue to look, and let's get that board acted. And one other thing, I'm encouraged that we each be a mentor of our appointee to help them learn the role of a commission. I'm almost sure most, if not all of them, at some point will run for some elected official position once they become an adult. Nate's last year with the city blessing and the city staff, we hosted 2 new events in the city of Pahokee. One was a prayer walk where we walked and prayed for our community, and we ended with a rally, a unity rally in the park. And the second one was a give back day where we brought items out to the public. We fed the public. All things there was free. It was like a yard sale, but a free yard sale. And I remember having a U-Haul, and some of the things was totally new. I needed to clean out my garage, so it really helped me. But while I'm bringing this up, I'm just encouraging the city that we should include this as an annual signature event along with our other events that we host with the chamber and the other organization. I know Commissioner Everett mentioned a few meetings back, we need to have more activities for the community. So I'm asking the city manager to look at our schedule and try to have that as an annual event. We had some wonderful speakers to motivate the community. At that time, the city manager also provided a state of the city address, a mini state of the city address. I think those 2 events was a great success, and I'd just like for them to be continued on an annual basis if we're able to continue them. Also, I attended the 33rd National Conference of Preventing Crime in the Black Community from May 28th through June 1st. It was in Jacksonville, Florida. The city of Pahokee took 8 youth there. We had supposed to have took 14, but for some reason, 6 of them, I believe, had some difficulty in their schedule and wasn't able to attend. But it was a wonderful conference. It's held every year by the state attorney office. And on Friday, June the 22nd at 9 o'clock, there's a tourism meeting that's going to be hosted by Laura. It's for the Tri-City mayors and this Tri-City city managers and our economic development staff. But I'm just putting this information out to the public that you're certainly invited to attend that. We're trying to find ways that we can attract and maintain tourism in the Glades. We have too many talented peoples here. You take Jamaica, for instance. A lot of areas in Jamaica is not really beautiful, but they do great in tourism. Certainly they got water, they got nice hotels, but we got to identify things that the Glades can kind of promote, that we can bring folks into our community. And that's going to be a brainstorming session to try to do that, and hopefully we can accomplish that. So that's going to be again on June 22nd at 9 o'clock at the Career Source in Belgrade. And that concludes my mayor's report. Now we'll move into the city manager report.
Thank you, Mayor, Commission. Thanks everyone for coming out tonight. I'm going to try to be brief, as I try to be sometimes, but I get long-winded, so I'll try to cut it short tonight. Commissioners Park, that's another project that was awarded to the city in the 2017 legislative session. That funding was $550,000 for improvements at Commissioners Park. I've met with the contractor. We've gotten the preliminaries of what we expect from this project. Of course, this contract has always been approved by the commission. The actual contractor was out on the premises about 2 days ago. No, yesterday. And we went through the formalities of what we're really looking for in this project at Commissioners Park. As you know, if you've been in Commissioners Park, it has a very dilapidated tennis courts and basketball court. They're going to completely refurbish that and bring it back to life and add LED lighting for safety. We're also going to address some of the landscaping, some of the aesthetics. There's a shelter that's needed on the pavilion area. We're going to remove and replace all of the fixtures in the restrooms out there. We're going to address some of the playground equipment. It's not old or dated, but there's some things we need to do to ensure safety and kind of beautify the area itself. And the splash pad, as we know, has been a major conversation about why it's off. It's old, it's dated, and it has a $5,000 a month leak attached to it, so that's why it's off. It's quite old, but they're going to see if they can implement some type of diversion plan where they can see if they can fix what's wrong with this splash pad, or if we need to completely buy a new one. And so along with those landscaping project, some additional improvements to some of the locators we have out there. We have a couple of plaques that sit actually on the ground, and we're going to remove those from just sitting on the earth itself and put it on a cement slab and highlight some of those plaques that are out there in the park, as well as the landscaping, the lighting, the tennis courts. We're also going to add a parking lot. The Commissioner Park does not have appropriate parking, and if you ever look at the original scope of work, the actual map of this park when it was first designed, there are several things that are missing from this park, and a parking lot is one of them. And so you'll be very pleased with this company and what they're going to do to Commissioners Park on Bacon Point Road. Again, it's just another amenity that we're going to bring back to life. It's a nice park now, but it certainly deserves the renovations that are coming to it. So that's a project that should be starting in the next 14 days or so. This part 2 will close for renovations. So please, again, be patient with us as these construction projects begin. If you have any questions, please call City Hall. We'll give you as much information that you need about this particular project. But again, we're excited about this project. I know the mayor is, because he wants that basketball court fixed. And I think another resident is waiting for the tennis courts to be repaired. And so again, another amenity provided to this community for the city of Pahokee. East Lake Village stormwater, as you know, when we have tropical storms, hurricanes of Cat 3, and it rains heavily here in the city of Pahokee, we have major flooding in one particular area, and that's the East Lakes Village area off Ricky Jackson Boulevard in that corridor. This particular project is in this infant stage of design and preparing the bid documents. We do anticipate bringing this project online in the next month or two. However, it will be ongoing most likely through the hurricane season of this year. And so I want to be very clear about that particular project. It's the last project from the 2017 funding that we received from Tallahassee that will come off the shelf and get started. But I think to me, it's the most important. I saw what can happen in this community when you get a Cat 3 and you get the type of rain that comes in this community, and there's nowhere for the water to go. And so we want to address that significantly now in this particular community. I promised that community that we would have this project up and running by the next hurricane season, and so we're a couple of months behind with it, but we are getting started on it, and they have not been forgotten about. And for me, this is more critical than fixing Commissioner's Park. No one lives in Commissioner's Park, but we have a lot of residents that live over there in East Lake Village that they can't even get to their homes when you have that type of amount of rain coming into this community. I think it was about 2 feet deep going back to that back canal adjacent to the agricultural fields on the western part of East Lake Village, even into the mobile home park. There are areas in there that were just up to almost a foot flooded. And thank God those mobile homes were situated higher than the actual flood waters, but there were homes off Ricky Jackson Boulevard that we couldn't get to, and this project is going to address a lot of those issues once it's commenced and completed. Parks and recreation renovations, I call this the campus because we have so much going on where we're located. We've done significant improvements to the interior of parks and recreations. If you have an opportunity, go look at the senior room, go look at our classrooms. They have been significantly improved with paint, new tile, lighting. The senior room, we ripped out the old island there and put in a new island. We're putting in a new refrigerator pretty soon. So the seniors are really excited about that color tone that they have and those new amenities that we brought to them. So all of these classrooms on this corridor have been renovated, and we're not finished. We have so much more to do on the inside once the summer enrichment program ends, and we have that week off before school starts. Again, we'll do some more major renovations once we can get the kids, out of here. In addition to that, of course, we got the Old Pahokee High School renovations occurring. We're still in major discussions with PNC Bank about our football field and what we want to do with that. So I don't want to speak too fast and get ahead of myself with the football fields because we're still in communication. All of these projects I'm mentioning now are surtax funded projects. They do not come from our general fund. There are projects that were approved by the county and voted on by the residents in this county to give many municipalities a certain amount of money for the next 10 years. Our haul is $3.2 million over the next 10 years, meaning those projects that we have pre-identified and approved by the county will be addressed. And these are some of those projects coming off the shelf. This time of year is budget workshop. We've completed all our conversations with our directors in our departments. Next, we'll be scheduling our budget workshops for the commission for our 2018-2019 fiscal year. I think we've had a good year as far as our budget is concerned, but we do this every year. We come in and we have a discussion about how we're going to spend our dollars for 2018, 2019 fiscal year, as well as address some of the things that are day-to-day operational when it comes to fiscal. So we need to prepare ourselves for those dates once we announce them to the public and to the commission for your pleasure to be here. 2018-2019 legislative session, the agenda. Usually around this time I sit down with our lobbying firm and I talk about what we achieved in last year versus what we need to achieve next year for our legislative agenda. The legislative agenda is in draft right now. We are looking at the projects that we currently have and what we were not currently funded in this last previous session in 2018. And we kind of lost a step or two because we got almost $4 million in 2017. Of course, we got an additional $1 million in 2018. And that's because we had a lot of issues occurring in Tallahassee that had really nothing to do with project funding. We had, the high school shooting and a couple other things that really turned the tide and the discussion on funding in Tallahassee, and it turned it towards school safety. And that's okay, for 2018. It was expected by the municipalities that a lot of the funding opportunities will be dried up with the conversation about school safety and how to protect our kids. And so a lot of municipalities didn't have that great year this particular legislative session. But coming 2018, 2019, there are several projects that we need to identify, and we have identified. Around the end of August, I'll release our draft of what projects I think can get funded here in the city of Pahokee. And then from there, our lobbyists of Tom DeRita and John and Connors will go to work in Tallahassee, as well as myself, working with our local elected officials, with the county, and with our state elected officials and representatives in Tallahassee. The only drawback this year is, as you know, Senator Joe Negron resigned as of November 2018. He will no longer be the senator, so he's given up his last 2 years as senator of this district. That hurts us somewhat because he is a standard in the state Senate right now, meaning he has a lot of influence on what happens at budget discussions for projects for the city of Pahokee. And so because of his resignation, we'll get a new senator out of that November election, and we will have to determine, how to best place our feet in Tallahassee as it comes to how we continue to foster that strong relationship with those funding streams coming out of Tallahassee. I think we're going to be okay, but again, we're losing, an individual that was very strong for the city of Pahokee, and he really stood by us in that $4.2 million haul in 2017. So whoever replaces him, they have big shoes to fill as far as I'm concerned, because we were added to Senator Joe Negron's district in redistricting, and it kind of, was a talk of the town because we were placed into a different party's district when we were particularly represented by another party, and so that was it was very a sensitive conversation. But Joe Negron really stepped up to the plate when he was the senator. So we'll see about 2018, 2019 legislative session. But I have great hopes that we'll be successful. Mayor, Commission, that completes. Oh, I'm sorry. August 16th, 17th, 18th is the Florida League of Cities annual conference. Please prepare your calendars for that annual conference for local elected officials here throughout the state of Florida. It will occur in Hallandale Beach this year. It's a great opportunity for networking with other local elected officials, going to workshops and getting those possibly best practice models that we can bring back to the city of Pahokee. And please don't forget July 4th fireworks. Even though July 4th is in the middle of the week, we're still going to put on a great fireworks show at the marina at that time. That's it, Mayor.
City Manager, the visiting City Manager in South Bay wanted us to discuss this topic if we haven't already. There was a meeting regarding Route 48 by the county yesterday. I don't know if you or any of the commissioner attended. I was going to have him kind of briefly give us an overview, but he left out. I heard that former Commissioner Biggs did. You want to just kind of share? Okay, you asked for it, I'm sorry.
I know it happened yesterday.
Okay, okay. I don't think, did anyone attend? I was hoping that, City Manager Campbell could have gave us an update. I'm quite sure he attended, but he stepped out, so.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah.
What is it about?
Route 48.
They're changing the routing of the bus stops. Some of them they're gonna do.
Palm train?
Oh.
Yeah, they doing some of them, I think, to door for some of the seniors.
Greetings to each of you. Allie Biggs, City of Pahokee. I'm now at 816 Jefferson Avenue in Pahokee. I asked the question because it was brought to my attention that the commissioners were notified about it. I didn't know that you all weren't. But anyway, it could be detrimental to our citizens because some of the routes they're going to cut out on 48, and you know 48 goes from all the way from Belgrade through to Pahokee and Canal Point. But where they used to come every, I think, 20 minutes, it's going to be now prolonged to an hour. And I think it would be good that you all find out about it because the citizens would need to know. Because, so that we can go to the county and let the county know that this would be a hardship for the citizens that do ride that bus. And a lot of people use it for medical reasons and different things, you know. So I just wanted to make sure that you all were aware that it did occur yesterday. The meeting was in Belgrade, but I don't have all of the details. And I would appreciate it if you all could check it out and find out what's going on with it so that the citizens can be, you know, instructed as to how to go about doing that daily chores as they've been doing, back and forth from the doctor and et cetera. So that's why I wrote the note. He brought it up for me, but thank you so much, Mayor, for
Appreciate
bringing it up. Okay, because I got here too late to put in my little.
Mayor, we'll do some follow-up on that and bring back some information to the commission. It may come back in an email before the next commission meeting if it's, you know, it sounds critical that we have some additional information on that.
Okay.
And Mr. Mayor, if I may, I just want to go on the record in stating that I was not made aware of that particular meeting. And had I been made aware, I probably would have picked my personal source because my father, who's out in the audience, not just recently, but is a recent retiree from Palm Train, and I was trying to read his body language, but I pick his brain because it would be out of order for me to question him from the dais. But I'll pick his brain to see actually what route, how Route 48, how is it going to impact our citizens.
Thank you.
And Mayor Barry, I did get the call from Lisa Wilson, but I had another meeting at the same time. But she was going to give me some updates on that meeting.
Okay.
But we will be meeting also with Melissa McKinley tomorrow, and also so she could give us some update on that also.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions for the city manager?
Yes, I have one, Mayor. Mr. City Manager, if you can give just a little update on the gymnasium.
No new information. I'm in discussions with the county about identifying some funds that the county can provide to repair this first level, which is just a gymnasium. Those conversations are still, they're not as ripe as I need them to be to talk publicly. And so as the county works through their fiscal availability on this project, I want to wait before I get ahead of myself and make any type of public announcement on how we're going to get the renovations started at the gymnasium. But there have been some very fluid conversations with the county administrator, Virginia Baker, and her staff, and we just want to continue those conversations until we have something in writing that will provide us a succinct and very detailed way forward for the gymnasium. But we are working on it collectively.
And I apologize for my question. I met with the city manager briefly today prior to the commission meeting. He asked me if I had any question, and I didn't, but I did jot down one or two while he was speaking. And if you don't have an opportunity to answer these now, at least by our next commission meeting, quarterly financial statement review that we had indicated we wanted to have done on a quarterly basis. Dates, if you can share, I know you don't have them now, but just share a tentative schedule of when we can expect on a quarterly basis our financial statement review.
Well, we're closing out our last quarter of the fiscal year because, as I noted before, we're going into our new budget discussions. So we can have one prepared and presented at the next commission meeting, just a financial update on where we are as we close out our fiscal year this year in the city of Pahokee. I'll notate that to the Director of Finance, and she'll be here at the next commission meeting, and we'll give you our last quarterly. We were planning to do that anyway, by the way.
Okay,
Yeah.
and
Mayor.
thank you. Status of the old hospital, the sale of that property, where we are on that?
We have one particular interested party in buying the old hospital. They have sort of explored some funding streams that they need on their end to ensure that there's money for demolishment and rebuild. There was a conversation that this particular investor had with the county recently, and there were some good conversations of where they can identify some additional funds if they purchase the property, and there's some more fluid conversation between that, the BDB, and Mayor McKinley's office, and so we're sort of holding back on moving to to another interested party that is out there until we can get through the conversations with how this particular investor will find the funds for demolishment. That appears to be the issue when they come and talk to the city. They're excited about buying the property. Then they realize, well, part of it is demolishing the old structure. Where I'm going to get the funds for that? So a good thing is in our agreement to whoever buys the old hospital, we're giving them about 8 to 9 months to start demolition. So they don't have to start right away, and they have a cushion where they can, gather the right fiscal funds to do the demolition. But again, we do have one investor that's in conversations with the city right now and with the county on how to identify some additional investment funds for demolition.
Okay, status of a date for the commission city manager retreat. Have you had any idea when we may have it projection-wise?
No, I have to get back with the city attorney because I wanted him to give me some dates when he was available, so we can give you guys some dates.
Okay.
Yeah, it'll most likely be sometime in August, following the Florida League of Cities meeting.
And the last status would be the quarterly town hall meetings. Do you have any dates scheduled for future quarterly town hall meetings? That's mostly because citizens have been asking.
Yeah,
to have
we're looking to plan
engagement.
one in July,
Okay.
of this year. I have a date, but I haven't sent it to you guys yet
Okay,
for availability.
thank you. Are there any questions for the city manager before we move on?
Yes, there was a question, and I don't know if that placed on new business with regard to update with the yard sale?
New
Yes.
business.
Okay.
And while we have South Bay City Manager here, Mr. Campbell, I don't know if you attended the meeting yesterday by the county concerning Route 48. Did you attend that meeting?
Mr. Mayor, Commission, I did not attend that meeting. My mayor did attend the meeting regarding Route 48, and we have not had an opportunity to get an update on it. I do know, well aware of the conversations regarding making modifications to Route 48 and the impact that it's going to have on the residents mostly in the city of South Bay and in the city of Pahokee. However, we have not, I know Palm Tran also haven't made a solid decision due to the impact that it's going to have on Route 48. So, but I don't have an update to provide the commission tonight. However, you all voice your concerns and make sure you're calling the county commissioner to keep Route 48 going, even if it's in a smaller bus.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, we're moving to, we don't have a report for the city attorney because he's absent, he's on vacation. We're moving to a new business because we don't have any old business to discuss. Lieutenant Piccolo, Palm Beach County Sheriff's Department report. And we're certainly glad to have Lieutenant back. He's been in training for about 3 months. And, Training certification probably.
Well, thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Commission, and good evening, folks. Yeah, as the Mayor just stated, I'm just getting back from 3 months away with police leaders throughout the nation. And thank you all for your support. I was very honored to be selected to attend this prestigious training. It was a great experience to see how all the agencies operate, and I'm pleased to see firsthand that PBSO does exceed and leads national benchmarks in what we do. And I'm just happy to be back and continuing working for the Glades community, so thank you.
Thank you, sir. And the next topic of discussion is the yard sales within the city of Pahokee. We put that on an add-on. We know that some residents are concerned about how now they can conduct yard sales or vendor selling in the areas of riding or other parts of the city. In fact, city manager, kind of just give an overview of where we are on that, why we got to where we did. It's actually an ordinance that was on the book. It's not something new. I think a year ago, when we felt that downtown Riding, those commercial areas was no longer there, it was rezoned for mainly residential areas. So he's going to kind of explain that. I know you had his laptop. I don't know if he's going to go into that portion, but he's going to try to give you an overview, because last commission meeting, a resident asked a question that the city had it within their power to change any ordinance or make whatever decision we wanted to make, but we have to kind of give I'll let the city manager at this point just explain where we are on that.
Thanks, Mayor. For everyone who has a question, we haven't changed any ordinances. That's the City Commission's authority to change any ordinances. We are enforcing the ordinances that are on the books, that have been on the books since 1984. 1984. There are a lot of practices that, when it comes to code enforcement, that we've gotten away from. And it's affected our community not in a good way. That's just fact. And what we've tried to do is first educate and have a discussion with our residents who don't understand about our ordinances that apply here in the city of Pahokee. And to let them know that this is not a new law, because for some people they think it's new. It's not new. There's nothing we've created new. It's just we have laws and ordinances on the book that must be enforced, like any other city. And so we need to get back to those standard practices that help this community maintain certain standards in the community. It could be your home, how it looks. It could be junk in your front yard. It could be high grass. Those ordinances are being appropriately addressed to businesses and residents. There's no particular target of what we're trying to do. We got a full-time code enforcement staff now that is very, very educated on what the code of ordinances are, and they're applying them. And that's what they're hired to do. It's not something I'm telling them to do. They're hired to do code enforcement as their prospective essential duties require. So I just want to clear that up, because for some particular reason, it's the city manager is making us do this, or it's the city manager's fault. No, every city has a code of ordinances, just like every county has laws for speeding. Every city has laws for speeding. Every municipality has what they call the code of ordinances. And this particular ordinance is about garage sales, which you are allowed to have at your house on Saturdays between 8 and 4 o'clock. You can have a garage sale in your driveway. You can put a nice little sign up, say garage sale at my home from 8 to 4. That's what the ordinance says. The ordinance also says that you must apply for a garage sale permit. That's the ordinance. That's not something we created. That's not something new. That's the ordinance for garage sales at your home. Now, let's get to vendor sales on side of the street, because that's not garage sales at your house. in your driveway. We got to separate these two conversations because we're mixing them, okay? There's an ordinance for garage sales, 8 to 4 on Saturdays. There's an ordinance for vendors. Now, in 1984, what we say vendor today, the language says street peddler, but it's the same difference. It's vendor. Vendors that sell garments, food, any other items can only operate in certain corridors of our zoning. You cannot sell on the side of the street in a residential area that's zoned for residential. That's not something new. That's not something we wrote today or last week or last month or last year. It's been there forever. It says you can do vendor sales in commercially zoned areas of the city. Rodden Avenue is not a commercial zoned area of Pahokee any longer. Was back a long time ago, but it's not any longer. It's changed. It's been changed for quite some time. That's why you see residents and you see 1 or 2 stores still operating. But it's residential. It's residential. It's zoned residential. Now, as you come into town, I don't know if we have the map, but as we come into town, on South Lake, the northern side of South Lake, which is the side where Pahokee Housing Authority is, leading into town, that switches to commercial as you get further into town. So that's why when you look at Osei and some of those old warehouse district buildings, that's commercial. You can actually be a vendor in that commercially zoned area on South Lake. But when you move over to Rodden Avenue, it switches to residential immediately. You can't be a vendor on Rodden Avenue from 2nd Street on back to the fire station. All that's residential. We just have not enforced that ordinance. And from the residual what we get from what happens on Rodden, we had to come in and enforce our ordinance. We seen what occurs on Rodden Avenue. And we have to get back to standards in our community. If we want economic development, we have to adhere to our code of ordinances. So Rodden Avenue is zoned residential. You cannot sell on the side of the street in a residential area. If you had a house on Rodden Avenue, you can do a garage sale on Saturdays from 8 to 4. But for a vendor who wants to sell food, clothing, whatever item it may be, it has to be in that commercially zoned area of South Lake. That is not a new zoning law we made up. That is not a new ordinance that we created. It has been there for many, many, many years. That's why when you look at our code of ordinance, it has a date attached to it. It says 1984. Now, we have updated our zoning to get away from it being mixed use of business and residential. It's all residential on Rodden Avenue, all residential. We're going to enforce that code of ordinances for this city. So, but it's an educational process. You know, we're not heavy-handedly saying, hey, you know, we're going to write you up. No, our code enforcement officers, they're going to speak appropriately and professionally. They're going to update you on the code of ordinances. They're going to partake to you what the ordinance requires, what our zoning is, because we want to work with the community, with our community, to ensure that everyone understands where they can and cannot operate a vendor business in the city of Pahokee. We're not taking away from what people want to do in the city of Pahokee when it comes to this type of business, but there is a protocol called the Code of Ordinances of where you can do it and what time you can do it and what the process is that allows you to do it in the city of Pahokee. Taking a step further, in 2017, we passed an ordinance here in the city of Pahokee that in the core areas of the city,
You can't have a thrift shop set up selling all types of items in front of your, on the sidewalk or in front of your store. That's why those businesses that you saw on Bacon Point Road on East Main Street, they can't sell those type of items visibly on the street in the city of Pahokee, in the core of the city of Pahokee. So this commission essentially has put a gate around the core areas of this city that say these type of operations cannot occur in the city of Pahokee any longer. And now that was a new ordinance for thrift store display and selling of things on the street out front of a business in the core areas of the city of Pahokee. But I just want to be clear that garage sales are for your home, where you actually live. You can have a garage sale there 8 to 4 Saturdays. A vendor that wants to sell on the side of the street cannot sell in a residential area on the side of the street in a residential area. You have to do it in the commercially zoned areas of the city. That's the ordinance. And by the way, you can only sell in the commercially zoned areas, and this is an ordinance since 1984, I believe, at a particular time, dusk to dawn. We didn't create this new ordinance. It's been there for a very long time. I don't see any need to revise it at this time. I don't see any need to change it. We're just enforcing what's been there for many, many, many years in the city of Pahokee. And if you look at any other city ordinances, when it comes to garage sales, vendor sales, it's sort of identical. It's sort of identical. And they enforce it. We're just getting back to a standard in the city of Pahokee of ensuring that we have a collected, seamless community where we can and cannot do certain things. And we have to get used to that again. And it's not to hurt, it's not to take away what people want to do, but communities, cities have standards, and it's called a code of ordinances that we have to apply. And again, it's not to hurt anyone. Again, we try to have an educational process with our residents, informing them what entails a garage sale or a vendor in the zone areas of the city. And so we'll continue doing that. We're not handing out fines to anyone. We're educating our residents about what they can and cannot do, and the time frames and the zoning and what's required. And we'll continue doing that because we know it's a sensitive issue with some of our residents when it comes to vendor sales and where they can and cannot sell. And we want to be understanding of what we're used to doing that they no longer can do. And so again, it's not to hurt, it's to help. And our code officers are on the street to educate, to talk to you at will if you want to. They'll show you the ordinances in the code of ordinances because, again, that's what they're there for, to assist this community to be a better community in the city of Pahokee. And I think we're getting there. I think the education, the conversations that we're having is educating our residents about this particular subject matter. But if you're going to ask me to bring you an ordinance to revise any of these ordinances, I wouldn't change a thing. I wouldn't change a thing because it was created for a reason. And we need to ensure that we enforce those ordinances that are on the book to ensure that if we want to talk about really changing the city of Pahokee in some areas, all the code of ordinances have to apply. And we can't revise because 1 or 2 people or 3 people or 4 people or 5 people or 10 think it's not right. That's not how democracy works when it comes to you talking about an entire city that has to work under the code of ordinances. So I don't want to step on anyone's toes here or make people feel bad because we have some really great residents in the city of Pahokee, and they want to see this city grow as much as it can, as quick as it can in this era that we live in today. And so the most I can offer mayor and commission and residents is an educational process to help them understand why these ordinances are on the book and why they need to adhere to them, and work with them to ensure that they are in the right place when they're doing their garage sales or they are a vendor in the city of Pahokee. So, thanks for giving me that opportunity.
to speak about that. But again, we are not creating any new laws that someone may think we are. It's just ordinances that have been there for quite some time, and we're getting back to the enforcement of them. So please be patient with us. Please work with us as we move forward with this ordinance.
If the commission would allow me, I would like to at least give residents an opportunity to say a few comments if they so choose. I know there was an add-on agenda item. Some maybe wasn't aware that it was added on. Some is here particularly for this particular discussion. We want to be polite. We don't want to raise voices, but if you are trying to convince this commission to change an ordinance, you have your opportunity to at least address us within the 3 minutes. I need you to fill out a card even after you speak for the record.
Fill out.
Whatever they're doing, it's working. I see a lot of people painting their houses.
Okay, for or against, you still can make that comment to share that, you know, if you would like.
Richard Brown, 303 Carissa Drive, Pahokee, Florida. One of the things I was listening to where they said that they didn't want vendors to, owners to set stuff out in the front of their business in the corner of the core of the city. And I see they told some of the people that they couldn't do it. And I go by Dollar General and they got it out there. I don't understand that. Maybe it's a different core. I don't know. That just me. I mean, I see it every other day. You see clothes, pools, right out there. And the other question is, and you all can respond. When you go to Belgrade, you know, you see every city. You go to Belgrade, people selling everywhere. Everywhere. Go down by the loading ramp, anybody been, they yard selling, they doing it all the time. All the time. And the other thing is this, that my question is, do the commissioners have the power or the authority to change the ordinance? That's the next question. And if so, your residents, the only reason it's not packed because they didn't know that this was going to be on the agenda. I called City Hall and I asked, was it on there? Nobody could tell me. Now when you got an agenda coming out within 24 hours and they can't tell you at City Hall what's on the agenda, that's not good. That's not good at all.
Mr. Brown, that was added tonight. It wasn't on the agenda. It was just added tonight by the mayor.
Right, but that's what
right.
I'm saying.
There wasn't no anticipation before this meeting that it would even be on the agenda.
And I was trying to figure out why, because it's been a month behind the ruckus about the yard sale, that should have been the first thing on there. And people would have been here. You'd have had a lot of support about this yard sale. And you know, they talk about the trash or whatever they're doing down on Rodden Avenue. The people that do the yard sale don't have nothing to do with that. They in the bed, they sleep. That's that young crew partying all night, and you guys know that. You know the yard sale people ain't doing no damage to that because they're in the bed. But this is the key to the whole thing. My first question is, if you guys have the power to put the yard sales back on Rodden Avenue, you guys need to put it back on Rodden Avenue. That's not going to destroy Pahokee.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Are there any other person? And for the record, too, state your name and address.
Okay, my name is Margaret Strawn. I live at 428 Cypress Avenue. I've been in this town for 80 years. I'm 80 years old. And I never heard some of the stuff he was talking about tonight. You're digging and you're digging and you're digging at the wrong stuff. Improve your city. Bring some business here. You can't even go buy a pair of shoes in Pahokee. You can't buy a dress in Pahokee. So the vendors kind of help the people out like that. And look like you all is fighting us every step of the way. And this is going bad with me. So I don't know what to do about it, but it's really going bad with me. Because it look like you're looking, I don't see no big time improvement y'all done did. I'm nervous because I ain't used to speeding. But I don't see it, but look like y'all could get off our back. You know, I've been selling on that corner across from Thriftway on the corner. Mr. Hills, he's dead now. He gave me written permission to use his property. Okay, I got my license even now and can't use it. Do I get my money back? My license go through September and I can't have no yard sale. And I make sure the place is cleaned up when I leave every Saturday, which I'm not there every Saturday, maybe 2 weeks out of the month. So I just don't understand why y'all picking on us like this, because it's not right. You know ain't no work at Pahokee. Ain't nothing here. When the mill closed, it's nothing here to do. And the people out there trying to make a few dollars to go along with this Social Security check, and y'all gonna stop that. It's not right. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Strong. Are there any other person wishing to make a comment?
Since several of, my name's Bobby Colvin, 3096 Bacon Point Road. Since this was just added, why not make it an agenda item on a future meeting, since others would be interested in coming? And other than that, not for or against, I don't do those sales usually, but I often hear, like other cities, and I think about Israel when they wanted a king like the other countries had, and it didn't work out so great. Before that, God was their king. I don't care about being like other cities. I like Pahokee. And whether another city does it a different way or not, to me that's not part of the game. I kind of like seeing somebody on the side of the road, whether it's watermelons or cantaloupes or whatever, and being able to stop and get them. But anyway, I won't go into all that, but I really think you ought to put it on the agenda for another time.
Thank you. In addition, comments? Thank you for good comments. Commissioners, any comments?
Mayor Bab, I think there is something that we can do. I know we're trying to clean up our area and stuff, but it's something that we can do to try to address the yard sale. Honestly, I know I have yard sale at the church, and I think there's something we can work out where we can. Whether I know I will just check. I know there's some cities where you can only have 2 a month or 1 a month or something, but there is something that I think we could try to work out. Probably, in certain areas, I know they're saying residential, but we are the power to be that can change the ordinance. And I think we can work out something to try to, to help out, because, I don't see a problem with it. Let's try to figure out something that would help the citizen where they can have the yard sale, whether, like we said, I think it was a $25 a year permit, and that they would have to have it from 8 to 4. And after that, they clean up this stuff. I don't see, me personally, really don't see a problem with that. But that's up to the majority of the commission.
Commissioner Marvin, you already have the guidelines for vendors. Let's stop saying yard sales, please. You have the guidelines for garage sales at your home and to be a vendor in this city. If you want to be a vendor in this city, the ordinance says you must do it in a commercially zoned area. You can't mix the two. You can't say, let's do sales in residential areas. You don't want that. That's what your ordinance says.
So your church is considered what?
Excuse me?
The church is considered, is that residential or that's commercial? Say, for example,
It's
your church
nonprofit.
have,
It's nonprofit.
Okay,
It's
so
nonprofit.
where do they lie with yard?
It's separate. It's nonprofit. We're talking about vendors. We're talking about what we define as people who set up on the side of the road in residential areas. That's not allowed per your code of ordinances. And I would strongly recommend that you do not change that. I would strongly recommend that where your ordinance is designed, that vendors can go and sell from dusk to dawn in commercial areas, that you refrain from revising that. Because you essentially are saying, well, it's okay. Let's see what we see in areas that we shouldn't see it in. So that's just, you put me here to give you facts. And the fact remains is Rodden Avenue is a residential zone area. We have a vision for Rodden that we've talked about, that we've all talked about, that we're trying to achieve. Now this is where the rubber hit the road.
Okay, but where we get an area where
we have an area for vendors to sell in the city of Pahokee. It's your commercially zoned areas, not residential areas.
Okay,
and so I know what you're trying. We're trying to say, hey, what can we do for Rodden? Nothing. It's a residentially zoned area. It needs to remain a residentially zoned area because of what we've encountered.
City manager is even on you say Lake Avenue is a commercial highway. So I'm just using Miss Margaret for an example, Miss Margaret. If she go where that she doesn't own any of that commercial property on
any vendor who needs to
on that highway, so she cannot just go and set
no,
up.
No, she would have to get permission from whoever that owner is of that property, which we have said earlier before. They would have to get a letter of permission to set up on that property, as she mentioned earlier, to operate on that commercially zoned area to sell as a vendor. That's the process now. That hasn't changed. So that's the process in those commercially zoned areas of South Lake. That's the process.
Okay, I'm sorry to keep saying, I'm sorry. I'm just trying to get understand. But until, okay, I know like in certain areas, and I know we've talked that where we've tried to design an area where we can have like one place designated for yard sale. But until we get that area designated for that, I don't see a problem with, the yard. They don't. I know, now me personally, I know Miss Margaret and them, they don't really be out there long. It be pretty much 3 hours or 4 hours, and then they're gone. And so, and I don't think it's that really that many. I understand the tables leaving out on the side of the road. I understand that should not be. But, until we get that designated area where it could be one large yard sale event, until we get that, I think, me personally really don't see.
Well, Commissioner Mervin, until we can find a space like that in the core, which you don't have, because you have to remember, you created an ordinance that doesn't allow for certain types of sales to occur in your core. Now, let's keep focused on economic development and the vision of this city, okay? Let's keep focused on this for a moment. You have designated areas in your commercially zoned areas of the city that allows for vendors. Even if the person doesn't own the property, they can get permission from that commercially landowner to operate from dusk to dawn. It's already defined.
Okay, so Miss May Francis, she goes on Thriftway parking lot. She just has to get a letter saying it's okay for her to sit, because that's where she sits every Saturday. So that's all she has to get a.
You have to remember what zone that is. That's in the ordinance that you passed last year.
For
So what I'm saying is, if she wants to go into that parking lot, I believe that's the thrift store parking lot is what you're referencing, correct?
Yeah, for that parking lot, not thrift shop. Now she just set up and go. I know we did
Right.
we did do a
when you get to
shops.
Thriftway, that's how I wish the map was up. But when you get to Thriftway, our zoning changes immediately to core. And what does core mean? Core means that you, in that area, and it's a small area right there on Rodden that switches to core from residential, right there at the thrift store. You can be in that parking lot only, if you have permission, if you have permission. but that's core. Now, again, it's residential on Rodden until you get to that area of core where Thriftway is. So I just want to clarify that, okay?
Can I get a part of this conversation? I read a piece of literature. It was an excerpt in, I think, the play Antigone, where it said even the trees bend at the wind. And one of the things I'm really on the fence with this issue. Yes, we want economic development. I'll be the first to say that. I'll be the first to say that if we want different, we have to do differently. However, I don't want us to be in a position where we are taking more from our residents than they can visibly see that they're getting. To me, Rodden is somewhat ambiguous because in the minds of our citizens, and those are the individuals that elect us to represent their interests, and we hire a city manager to be our CEO and to represent, and I respect the positions and the roles that we play. But as a commission, as a city manager, I think that sometimes we can be rather hardball, and to me it's a little ambiguous to the citizens when you have the Blue Store, when you have Thriftway in other areas in Rodden, in their minds. And I wasn't here 2017 when that ordinance was passed. I'm here now. And until we do something with Rodden that is of substance, that they can visibly see, I'm going on the record, whether it changed or not, and I told individuals both here and in the community, if I got to stand Benny L. Everett III alone on a position, I will do that. And sleep at night knowing that I stood on what I think is right. And my thing is, until we put something there, allow them, all right, Benny Junior, allow them to do it. I mean, that's the charm of a small town. You see people selling. You see people doing those things, and it's not for a vote, because I told others, if I'm just a one-term commissioner, I'm going to do what I feel is right as a one-term commissioner. I just do not see a problem with it, because it's a charm of a small city when you see people doing it, as long as there are reasonable boundaries set.
Commissioner Everett, that's why you have a code of ordinances, and you have
and it can be and it can be amended and changed.
I get you in a minute.
But
it can be amended and changed.
We've had these conversations one-on-one, so we can't straddle the fence when we come in here and we get sensitive, okay? You have a code of ordinances, and you have code officers that are hired to enforce those code of ordinances. Now, again, I said this is an educational process of explaining where and we can operate certain things and where we cannot, okay? You're right, there's nothing there. But you got to prepare and visualize what gets it there. What gets it there.
But let me correct something, Mr. Williams.
What gets us there, what gets us there, Commissioner Everett, is what we need to do now with our code of ordinances. So, again, we have designated zoning in this city for what our residents want to do with being a vendor. It's residential and it's commercial. You just heard me say that in that corridor where the Thriftway is, if you're allowed by that owner to set up in that parking lot, you're welcome to sell anything you want. But when you come back down Rodden Avenue on these empty lots, that's residential. And honestly, there's nothing going on those lots currently. For the most part, from my understanding, is they're concerned about where they are, where the Thriftway store is. That's core. You can set up there and sell. So I hear what you're saying, but there's nothing that needs to change when it comes to our ordinance, because they are where they want to be, and they can sell there if they have permission from that owner.
But let me correct one misnomer. No, I'm not being sensitive. No, I'm not duplicitous in what I say. What I say one-on-one, I can say it openly. So let me clear up that misnomer. I've stated even in an open meeting that I was on the fence, that I even asked for the city attorney to provide further knowledge with regards to yard sales, so that an informed decision, let me finish.
You saying yard sales?
Let me finish.
It's
That
not
an
yard
informed
sale.
decision and position could be taken. Now, did I get that information from the city attorney? I did not. But I do want to correct the misnomer that I'm not being sensitive, because like the gentleman here, I don't do yard sales. But because I don't personally do them, should not impact my decision or position. So let me just straighten that up. I'm not being sensitive, but what I am saying is we have a group of citizens that it is near and dear to them. You may not work directly for the citizens, but as a city commissioner, I didn't get a vote of one. I got a vote of many, 63% to be exact, that want me to represent their interests. And so my thing is, if we can reason with them, and if we can come to a mutual agreement, I'm not saying bastardize our approach to attract economic development. But what I am saying is, because there's a book that I read that not only guides my life, but it convicts my life, that if we can reason together, then let us do that. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Thank you. Let me allow Commissioner Hill, who have been waiting patiently, to make a comment. Commissioner Hill?
Yes.
You have the floor.
Yes, I have a question. I understand that we're, with the government should use great terminology for the vendor or a yard sale, but my thing is, why is it we can't just take this back to the ordinance committee? And whatever it is, we don't have to necessarily change it, but I'm sure there are things that we can interject, extract from that ordinance or anything that would allow certain things to go on, because I do understand and I do agree in a sense with Commissioner Everett, as well as Commissioner Vice Mayor. Oh God.
I think that's
Mervin.
Vice Mayor. Yeah, Mervin. So I don't think if they're coming in these meetings and they're standing up here and they're having this concern, we just can't sit and just say what we can't do. There are things that we can do. Sometimes we may not want to do that because of economic development. But I do know that there are things that we can do, and it is possible for us to do something as commissioners. So that's the part I want to get straight, and I just feel that wholeheartedly, because at the end of the day, we have to sit here in this community and get the questions from the citizens. So it's easier to sit on that other side and say, what we need, what we got to do. No, I feel as though we can have, even if we have a town hall meeting, let's have one. Let them come out. We understand what's going to happen. But is there any way that we can approach this and try to figure some things out? I'm sure it is.
I kind of agree. I think everyone is saying similar, trying to find some solution to this concern. One, we could temporarily suspend enforcing the ordinance till we can work out details of how we're going to proceed.
And what particular ordinance are you mentioning? Because remember, you got two separate conversations mixing. You got people talking about garage sales at their home, which I don't think we're talking about. I think that's cleared up.
Right.
And then you're talking about not yard sales, but vendors operating in residential areas when they're supposed to operate in commercially zoned areas.
Right. I think
so. Now let me finish. If you want to change your zoning, that's not a one conversation. That's not a workshop. That is an entire building planning and zoning team coming in, explaining to you what your zoning currently is, researching how it impacts what we're trying to do economically, researching and explaining to you what it does to the overall impact of your core. So it's a labor intensive, which we don't mind doing, but I still feel that your ordinances that you have and what I'm hearing from our residents
provides the proper location where they want to be. I have not heard anyone say that they don't want to be at the Thriftway and they can't be there. I haven't heard anybody say that. Now, what I have heard is whatever residential area that we have on Rodden, we may want to revise the zoning to say it could be some commercial. That means you're going to allow not just vendors to be there, but now you're saying that commercial buildings that are not built there could possibly can go back to Rodden when you've already said you want this to be residential in zoning previously. So I just want to be clear about that because I'm put here to enforce your code of ordinances, not try to find a way between so we can all get along.
Yeah,
but we can go back and look at how we revise it to ensure that.
I think your point is well taken. I understand your position on this. I also understand the majority of the commission desire to work something out that would allow them, even if it's just temporarily, till we can get a more permanent fix. And that's what I'm putting the choices out there by saying we can temporarily suspend the enforcement of that particular ordinance as it pertains to vendors.
But what part of it?
Let me finish though. We can go in details later. You can have an ordinance on the book and you can decide to temporarily suspend it as it relates to vendors on Rodden. We could also table this and add it to our future agenda. We could also discuss it at our retreat to come up with a more agreeable solution to our residents and the commission. So there are some options we can do so we can have a more detailed discussion. I know the point, I know the reason why you're so strongly supporting it is for the economic development of that area. And sometimes you have to bite bullets sometimes to get to a certain point. But in the interim, as Commissioner Everett has indicated, the residents need to see something happening on Rodden and make that transition. Say, you know what? I see where they're moving. I see the housing development now is coming up in that area. It may delay the process, but it shouldn't stop it totally. So once we get to a point where residents now can buy in, we could move to a more permanent ordinance that would not allow the sale of items by vendors. So I'm just trying to tell you that based on what I'm hearing, the majority of this commission is saying we want to find a way that this can work for our residents.
I got a question. Mayor Babb, if I'm in order, I'm just really curious because, you know, we kind of hee-hawed and danced a while, and I know it's not proper, possibly, but we've broken ranks to do this. Where Miss Margaret is located is across from Thriftway. She has written permission. Is that preventing her? Okay.
Yes, I was told it was.
But we're speaking now, present. She's not prevented, right? Hold on. She's not prevented.
According to the city manager, I believe she would be because he's saying that's a core area versus.
Across from
I think because I got someone in from building planning and zoning here, if your business tax is located at a certain address, you can't go to another address and set up and operate.
No, her garage sale.
Her garage sales.
Her garage sale states her address.
Her address. So you can't legally go to another address and then operate on another piece of property if it's not on your business tax. You know, I ain't haggling about that. You know, if you got permission to be in that parking lot to sell, I can't haggle about that. But I'll fight y'all all day long on Rodden residential and commercial because I just will.
The specific question is,
I don't have a problem where you at.
Okay.
I want to clear that up. Where
now,
you at?
Now, where are you?
My question is.
Now, hold on. Where are you?
I'm right across from the shop. Been there 40 years. On that lot, 40 years.
That's residential.
40 years. 40 years right there.
That's residential.
Right, I'm just saying, I'm just speaking of fact, 40 years right there, got permission from the owner, the property owner, got it notarized, took it to City Hall. 40 years, right there in that same spot.
That's residential.
40 years.
As I said before, we're enforcing ordinances that have not been created new today. It is what it is. And parts of the corridors of Rodden are an issue. Not saying these folks are an issue, because I don't think they are. But if you're going to enforce it for everyone, you got to enforce it for everyone, not just the folks that are out there at 10 o'clock at night. You have to stick to your ordinance. And this is a residential area. But as we speak of where Ms. Margaret is located, I really don't have a problem with that, even though her address says she's supposed to be operating at her house. If she has permission to be in that parking lot, I really don't have an issue with that. I don't.
And I'm at Thruway, and I have permission to be there.
I just said I don't have a problem with that parking lot.
You good, darling. You good, mama. But
I don't have a problem with that.
And we can do as the mayor, we can suspend it for at least till we find out, come to the solution of, because until something happens, if that no good, if Ms. Marcus see someone now for to start building a house on that address, she knows she will have to not be able to do a yard sale.
But all you got to do is ask the people of Rosemary around
Yeah.
City Place. They build City Place overnight in areas such as that. So I mean, my position is not being sensitive or being swayed. I just I agree with the mayor. With regards to Rodden, because it's to me, and that's why I asked the city attorney the question that I asked about further study, because it was very ambiguous to me, because you got a church here, you got the Blue Store there, you got the late Sonny Jackson barbershop on the corner, you got a liquor store right there. So to me, it was ambiguous, and the way I think, I'm somewhat abstract, and then I'm visual and all of that, and to me, it looks a combination of both residential and commercial, but I was not a part of those conversations, and when things were passed regarding, the changes of zoning. But at the end of the day, we are commissioners. We take the advice, the professional advice and guidance of our city manager, but the buck does stop and starts with us. And we make a decision that is not only in the best interest of our citizens, but also the city. We make decisions that's not only in the best interest of the city, but in her citizens as well. And it does add charm, and I've said this even during the debate, it does add charm to our city to see some things that are uniquely different from what you would see in Wellington, Royal Palm, in other areas. But I'm not saying, and I want to go on the record, even with citizens, I'm not saying that we should lower our standards and not expect to be a good city where people want to live. But the vendors, the mom and pop vendors, until we start seeing some booming stuff going down in Rodden, I just don't see a problem. But I do see some issues that we need to enforce dusk to dawn, and I speak with Lieutenant Piccolo about that. Some other concerns that I definitely think we need to enforce. That does make for extra work for our public work department when they're out there littering and beer bottles and all of that kind of stuff.
I think it's the desire, until we can work out a permanent solution, that we suspend enforcement on Rodden. And law enforcement did it from time to time. Say, if for instance, parking, where there's not any available parking, they understand it's still on the books, but we're not at this point until we can work out a better solution. We will suspend that particular enforcement of that particular ordinance. So that's what I'm leaning toward. If the commission is prepared, we can put forth a motion there. We understand the city manager position. We're not eliminating that ordinance. At some point, that ordinance will be picked back up at some point. But for right now, I would think it would be appropriate to maybe temporarily suspend it, the enforcement of it. I'll put it that way.
And also, Mayor Barry, I understand the city manager saying about the thrift stores to where they were leaving stuff out after they're closed. That still doesn't change. Everything still has to be on the inside. But I would like to put forth the motion that we suspend this ordinance as of now.
Which particular ordinance are you referring to?
The vendor ordinance to where they can have the yard sales on.
I would strongly recommend that we go and get the
Yard
correct
sales,
ordinance number and ordinance language before we just broad stroke suspending the ordinance. I'd say give us 2 weeks to come back and then make that decision.
Okay.
And maybe between that time, we can add some additional information for the commission so you can make that decision. That's just my recommendation because we don't even have the ordinance number that we're talking about tonight about garage sales and vendors and where they can and cannot operate in a residential area versus a commercial area as their zone now. I would strongly recommend that we get the correct language, the correct ordinance number, so we can come back and make that decision and not broad stroke it, because we don't even have the ordinance, that number that you're pertaining to, that we need to address without the city attorney being here. That would be my recommendation. But you're welcome to do what you please tonight. I'll carry out what you decide, but I would strongly recommend that.
Well, that's fine, because this be like as a first reading of.
No,
we'll bring it
no.
back.
Yeah, he would go back. We would just come back and make a motion on those particular ordinance numbers for a suspension or what we consider a moratorium on this particular ordinance.
Okay, that's fine. So Saturday though, they can go ahead on if they wanted to. They can have their yard sale. They're fine.
No, you haven't officially.
So they won't be fine until.
No, you haven't officially decided on what particular ordinance number you're talking about to suspend.
No, but
you're broad stroking right now.
Ms.
So
we just told Ms. Margaret she was
okay.
She was fine whether you do anything tonight or not.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
May Francis is good.
I just want to be in proper protocol that you can't broad stroke ordinances. You have to identify the particular ordinance numbers with our city attorney for moratorium reasons.
Yeah, I agree with that. We just wanted to be clear.
Yeah. Okay.
I agree with that, not to.
Yeah, but ma'am, she was fine where she was located at currently with the permission that she has. I don't have a problem with that. I've said that several times. I don't have a problem where you are.
All right, well, you're fine. Move on.
Hopefully we'll be able to finalize the moratorium at our next commission meeting.
Yeah.
Next on the agenda is a brief discussion of the employee action form. As you're aware, our city manager assumed the day-to-day operation and supervision of the city clerk, provide guidance and instruction for her. The city commission is still responsible for hiring, firing, and any disciplinary action toward any charter member. He just asking our blessing to do a action form with the clerk. It's a verbal instruction and guidelines for her, and it's dealing with just her absenteeism on her performance. So I would entertain a motion.
Mayor, if you want,
go ahead on.
If you wanted me to give you an overview before we do any type of motion, you might want to know what's in here. This is just an action form. Verbal counseling on attendance for our city clerk. There's been some concerns about attendance. There's an accumulation of days of that is not only just vacation, but late reports and call-ins that has come to my attention over the last several months. I don't have the authority to go beyond just a verbal conversation, even though I am over all day to day. The most authority I have is just a verbal conversation and counseling to address attendance in her attendance record. This action form here says that if you want to increase any severity of this action form beyond just my verbal conversation, you can to a PIP, performance improvement plan, for how many days you want, or you can remain as is as a verbal counseling for the next 45 days in observation of performance that I'll come back and report to you over the next 45 days. So if you want to, you know, make changes to this to this action form for the severity of it, that's your options. I don't have those options or authority to do that.
Can I say something, Mr. Mayor, if I'm in order? I think there's a clarity that we need to provide. I believe one of our residents does not understand the rule regarding comments, that after a certain time, comments aren't accepted. And the only reason why the yard sale comments were accepted versus the card that was brought far beyond the time limit was because you added it, right, and on the spot you asked us, was it okay to entertain the comments as it specifically related to yard sales. Mm-hmm. So I just wanted that to be understood, because I could tell that one of our residents had a concern that their comment was overlooked. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't overlooked, but it was passed that after a certain time, we wouldn't have people just coming throughout the meeting, just passing comment cards, that it had to be done at a certain time in the meeting. But the yard sale was entertained because it was something that was added on the agenda, on the spot, and the mayor, within his right, opened the meeting up for comments only on that specific agenda item. So I just wanted to bring clarity to that.
But and that particular comment card I did see, I can address that directly. I think I kind of know what her question is, because I addressed it earlier about the pier and the marina and the closings and what's going on. I'll address it right after the meeting, so I'll still give an opportunity to speak with it. I think I know what the question is.
Okay.
She doesn't mind.
All right, so going back to the...
Must be coming up now.
Okay, well, come on up.
Go ahead, ma'am.
Go ahead. Yes, ma'am.
Pearl Freeman, 331 Banyan Avenue, Pahokee. I want to know, did you all stop us from going up on the pier?
No, ma'am, we haven't. We are going through major renovations and constructions at the marina. Collectively, there are a lot of renovations that are beginning, and what we're doing is to ensure safety to everyone. There are certain parts of the seawall that we fish on that has to close for renovations. One of those major renovations is a railing that we're installing around the entire seawall on all sides. And so eventually we will close the seawall for all those renovations to take place. So yes, ma'am, we are closing it temporarily as we move forward with all our construction. And that's not the only area that we'll be renovating. We're renovating the entire marina. So we'll get to a point here very soon that you will not be allowed in any parts of the marina temporarily until we finish all our renovations. But currently right now you can fish on the northern seawall of the marina right now, but when that construction moves to that area, it will close down for a while. So we're not, closing it permanently. We're just temporarily closing it for renovations and construction.
So when you start the renovation, you're going to renovate the whole thing at the same time?
Yes, ma'am. I have 5 different contractors working at the same time. 4 of them are working right now, and I have 1 more as of tonight that's getting started.
So the last time when we was talking about the pier, I understood that you said that you would fix a place for us to fish at before you do all that.
That was the conversation, but that particular part of this project was subtracted because the funding wasn't there to fulfill building an actual fishing pier. So that's why we're doing some of the construction on the seawall in phases. We're on the north end right now doing those renovations. As we come down over to the other side, well, we're on the south end. As we come over to the north side, we'll reopen the south side to go fishing. So we're just doing it in phases. So right now, you can go fish on the north seawall at the marina.
Well, which one you call side? Because one of them.
The north side is the closest side to the public side, the public park side.
Okay, when you go down that, you can't go on the other one because it ain't got no lights.
That's correct. We're addressing the lighting. That lighting's been broken for quite some time, and that's part of the renovations that we're trying to do. So at night, if you're trying to fish, no, it'll be quite dangerous because there's no railing installed yet and there's no lighting. But that lighting is a part of the major renovations that we need to do on that part of the marina. So during the day, you're fine, but I would highly recommend you not be out there at night because that lighting does not work. It doesn't work because there are no light bulbs. It doesn't work because all of the cable wiring was stolen and ripped out. And so we have to replace all that over the next several months to get all that lighting to work.
It will take several months to do that.
Yes, ma'am.
And so we don't fish in several months, huh?
No, ma'am. What I'm saying is, right now you can fish on the seawall on the north end. As the railing construction comes around to the north end, if it's completed on the southern end, you can fish on that other side of the seawall. Right now, you can fish on the north seawall. There's no construction going on. But there will get a point where you won't be able to get to the marina whatsoever because we'll have that much construction.
Up there, the lights was out. So I don't know, one night the lights was out and somebody told me yesterday that they turned them back on, but I went up there and it was more than me up there. And we thought the lights was coming on, but
No,
they
they
didn't
don't.
come on.
They can't come on over there because the wiring was
I'm not talking about that side. Talking about the other side where we was on that night.
It goes off at a certain time.
It didn't come on.
Then there's something wrong with that wiring. Again, we're repairing all of the wiring on the entire seawall.
Can I say something, Mr. Williamson? I think it's going to come a point in time that our citizens are going to have to understand that when heavy equipment and other things come on the dike, there's going to be a temporary inconvenience to bring the marina up to where it needs to be. It's going to be a temporary inconvenience. And at the end of the day, the dike and the marina doesn't belong to us. It's leased to us by the state. And they're giving us an opportunity to do something very massive. But we got to be willing to be inconvenienced. It's a temporary inconvenience. You got heavy equipment that could potentially expose our citizens to danger because they're going to be doing parking lot, they're going to be rewiring, they're going to be they installing the rails, they're installing cameras, they're doing fencing, and they're doing all of this stuff, and it's rather unreasonable to ask a construction group or groups to work around people while they're fishing. And so what the citizens is going to have to do is understand and work with us until these repairs are done. It's just a temporary inconvenience. You might not can go where you normally was able to go to fish. You may be rerouted, and it may come a time where a large portion of the marina is going to be closed, but it's going to be temporary. And once it's done, you can enjoy it because it's not just for the tourists,
It's for everyone.
but it's going to be accessible and open for everyone to enjoy. But we're going to have to be temporarily inconvenienced.
Thank you,
I
Commissioner.
understand all of that, ain't none of that up there now. So why cause it?
But it has to be, the heavy equipment is up there. I've witnessed them bringing the heavy equipment up there to make it. But the point of the matter is, it won't never get done if we don't shut it down, to shut those areas down, and tell the people, you can't get here because this is what we need to do. You can't have cars parked in the area you got to restripe. You can't have cars parked in the area you got to resurface. It's going to require you to close it so that you can restripe, so that you can resurface. You can't put lines and directional signs on the road and you got cars parked there.
I understand all of that, what you're saying, but that ain't going on right now. Why turn the lights out?
But it's
We gotta
going, it's
prepare
a lot
for
of stuff going on.
construction. They're preparing it for construction.
But, yeah, I believe they are repairing for it. But it ain't going on right now. You gotta wait till they get repaired before.
You can currently, right now, fish. It just at night it's not safe because of the lighting and no railing.
Right.
But No.
But eventually, as
Yeah,
Commissioner
eventually,
Everett said,
absolutely.
the farthest you can be able to get on the marina is the top of the hill where the flagpole is. We're closing the whole area. We got to do these renovations,
And we got.
and it is for the betterment for the community, for safety, for improvement. It's not to stop anyone from fishing. As I said before, right now in the morning you can go and fish on the north seawall at your leisure. But you can't go to the southern end, any of that construction. But that construction is going to eventually go to the north end, go to the public side, and the whole marina will close just temporarily. Just temporarily. Just temporarily. I know it's a pastime. I know it's a part of what people want to do. But in order for us to do all these renovations, to protect contractors and allow them to work uninhibited by human error or accident, we have to close it. We have to close it.
Okay, folks, we're gonna move on. I just need us to
Thank you, Ms. Pearl.
confirm what our city manager is currently asking to proceed with. And he did indicate that we wanted to put some additional in this, we could. But right now, I think what he's doing, it should be fine. After 45 days, if we feel there needs to be some additional corrected action, we would address that, I believe, at that time. Commissioner Hill.
Yes.
Any comments on that?
Oh, no comment.
Okay. Everybody in agreement with that? This all this is a counseling, a verbal counseling of the clerk to give her some guidance on hoping that this will correct some of the attendance problem.
Do we have any?
Like backup or documentation? Yes, he has quite a bit of that. Could you email Commissioner Walker that copy?
I'll email him again.
He'll give you every date that
everything,
she was out. And some of it was due to sickness, some were due to other things, but when you compile it all together, it was substantial now, and all they're doing is trying to get that, nip that in the bud before it becomes a serious problem.
Okay.
Okay, so I could entertain a quick motion to allow the city manager to proceed with this. This within this is really not a disciplinary action. He could really do it, but I want our blessing that this is appropriate so it can be more effective.
I know we've been here. Okay.
No, you got a question?
Go ahead, man.
I mean, I don't have a problem.
What I'll do, I'll offer a motion to accept the City of Pahokee employee action form as is indicated, city manager, verbal counseling. I don't see anything wrong with an observation of 45 days. I'm expected, I work, I'm expected to show up and appear to work, do what the school district of Palm Beach County hired me to do, along with policies that state I can't take days a day before or a day after holidays. Those are pretty much standards. I don't care where you work. So I don't think that this is unreasonable. It's just a verbal counseling saying that, hey, we talked to you. And if it becomes a problem down the line, we can reference the fact that, hey, we've had that conversation. So I offer a motion that we accept this recommendation, accept this form, and the plan that the city manager has in place.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved by Commissioner Everett and properly seconded by Vice Mayor Mervin to accept the employee action form by the city manager to be counseled with the city clerk. Questions?
I have a question. And I know we're ready to go home. I'm just putting this out there so that it can be on your mental Rolodex. I don't think we probably need to hash this out tonight, but I had the privilege prior to being elected on serving on the Charter Review Committee. And one of the things that I felt, and even at the commission meeting, I witnessed and somewhat of an ambiguity when it came to the role of the city manager in terms of day-to-day operations and the involvement that the city commission had. And even from that charter review committee, I was very strong that the right to hire and fire a city clerk ultimately should rest with the city commission. But I strongly feel that we can't monitor, supervise her day-to-day operations. And so in the charter review committee, I was very strong in her presence. So I'm not saying nothing that I didn't say in her presence, because she had to be at the charter review committee along with legal. That there is somewhat some ambiguity when it comes to the language in a sense, or that individual's understanding of where the city manager stands in relationship with oversight of the day-to-day role of the city clerk. And maybe what we need to do, since the city attorney isn't here, I think it would be something worth exploring, maybe in a workshop or what have you, on the roles. Because I think that language of charter member stands as maybe an impasse to one understanding roles and supervisory authority. I thought it was very ambiguous, and I have my position, and I was very strong on my position, that I don't disagree with the ultimate hiring and firing still need to rest with the city commission. However, I think we need to look at that from an ordinance position.
We indicated hiring and firing. I took it one step further and say disciplinary action too, as far as suspending and other things. So you got to put those three together, because the charter kind of dictates that portion of it. But you're right, the language in our ordinance certainly need to be clearer to allow him to do the day-to-day supervision of her.
Mayor,
and I even said in the
and
charter,
recommendation of.
And I even said in the charter review committee, me personally, I wouldn't want to work in a position as it currently stands as a clerk or a city manager, because you're at the wheel of political upheavals. I would rather work under the auspices of a city and a district. But I wasn't there to argue that point, because then we would have to take that to the ballot. Me personally, I'm glad I don't work at the will of a school board. I'm glad I work at the will of a district, because it provides me extra layers of protection, because I have a collective bargaining unit that argues my case. But for the sake of argument, I felt strongly that it should rest with the city commission. But I think as an ordinance, we need to clear up the language, because in some instances it's ambiguous. And I think with the presence of the city attorney, so that we're bordering the lines of being legally intact, I think that conversation needs to be further explored.
Right. Okay. We have had our questions. Are you ready for vote? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Everett,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Mervin,
Yes.
Commissioner Hill,
I would wanna, in any way, I would wanna speak to the city clerk as well. I mean, I do agree with what's going on, but I also wanna speak to the city clerk.
That's a no.
So I can't, I don't know what it is, but.
you want to abstain?
You want to abstain,
You put it
or?
as a no.
Oh,
Oh.
You put it as a no right now, but I would rather speak to her.
Okay.
No for her.
Commissioner Walker,
I would like for her to be a part of the 90 day review out of I agree with that, okay? With the 90 day review.
Okay. So basically, you're saying the employee action form you don't have a problem with. It's basically just a canceling and an observing of her performance.
Yes.
And I think it's 45 days.
45.
Yeah,
That's why I
45.
say.
Okay.
is it no?
Yeah.
That's yes. Or,
For me, yes.
oh, yeah, yes.
Mayor Bab,
Yes.
Okay, I got a question too.
Let me just summarize the vote.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Motion approved by a majority of 4-1 vote. Commissioner Walker.
Okay, I know we have to, somewhere out the loop. Do we have to evaluate the city manager?
Yeah, we do that annually.
No, well, we need to do that, somewhere, we need to, how he determine, or we determine how, when we, people are employees or disciplined, fired, or whatever, because, you know, our citizens, and you already too, you already say that, you already say that. Our citizens are being fired, demoted, whatever. We need to know, find out what's going on, because a lot of times our citizens are being affected by this. So he sign contracts like that the mayor should be granted, and then we don't discipline him for what he does. So it's, you know, it's like you said, for you, we need to, I can't say it like what I want to say, but I mean what I know to say.
I think we understand where you're going. Maybe in the commission, city manager retreat, we can address that. And one of the things we have done in the past was receive copies of exit interviews, and that can be one-sided too. If a person gets fired, they could put negative stuff that may be not untrue or could be true, but at least we can look at that, and that's something we can work on getting done. We're going to move into the quickly, it's after 9, commissioner comments, and we'll start with Commissioner Mervyn.
No comment tonight, Mayor.
Thank you, ma'am.
Well, I don't have a comment. Well, I have a statement, comment. I guess it's an issue of semantics. I just wish I wish it be a day that when we transact business up here, that we can be forthright and speak to the issue. Because I'm a firm believer in the book that guides my life and also convicts my life, that a kingdom or any system divided against itself will not stand. And I told this to a fellow commissioner in a meeting, in an open meeting. So I want to preface that because I don't want anybody thinking I broke sunshine. That if there is an issue of accountability, let our issues of accountability not border the lines of personal, but if the city attorney, the city manager, the city clerk, or if any one of us fall below the standard of or that benchmark of excellence, we need to address those issues and not use it as ammunition when an issue is discussed that we may not agree with. And I know Commissioner Walker mentioned about contracts. I'll say this. There are 3 names that go on those contracts: the attorney, the city manager, if I'm correct, and the city attorney, the city manager, and the mayor. And if at any time contracts are signed and those one of the three parties aren't privy, it needs to be addressed not later down the line. It needs to be addressed immediately so that we don't come up against those problems later down the road. And I'm a firm believer in accountability. I think it's important that we have it. But let's make sure that we're holding all persons accountable. I forgot to ask this question, city manager, if you could take a note of this. Techno Marine. We made a motion that we suspend Techno Marine, and that 15th day, we needed our money. And if we didn't get our money, a lawsuit need to be filed. And it's been beyond the 15 days.
It's already filed, sir.
It's been filed?
Yeah.
Okay, but let me mention this. But when I asked the question of the city attorney, it wasn't filed at the time that the motion stated.
No,
so
you have to give him time he has to gather his legal documents, put everything in the proper order. It may not have hit the 15th date, but it was filed.
Okay. So
and there's no contract that's being developed in the city that no one has seen. So we need to stop saying that too. Not saying you saying it, but there's no contract being developed. There's nothing that's being flown under the radar, because when we throw that out there, all of a sudden 1,000 questions come. All our contracts have been viewed by a city attorney, approved by the city commission. That's why you got all these projects operating in the city. You know, I'm focusing on projects and getting this city moving forward. That's where I'm at.
And back to my comment, all I'm saying is this. If there are legitimate, founded issues and concerns, we need to stop the pettiness, and we need to address them with the motive of making our city better and not trying to catch someone with their pants down. That ends my comments for the night.
Mayor Bam, one thing, if I can say one thing also on the defense of that that has to stop, because now, as they state, the city attorney is the one that writes the contracts. So there's nothing going out without the city attorney or no one knowing. He actually writes the contracts himself, and then they comes to the diet. So you know.
I'm saying the mayor signed the contracts. He's mayor.
He signs all the contracts, Commissioner Walker.
That's why I'm
but
saying
that happens now. I'm trying to understand what you're saying. He signs all the contracts.
Mate.
He does.
Well, the mayor's here. And my only issue is this: if the city attorney or the mayor isn't signing those contracts, the issue needs to be addressed. And I'm not saying this directed toward anyone, but if the mayor isn't signing the contracts, or if they're not given to him at a certain time or deadline, it needs to be addressed. And it needs to be addressed. Not all this one-on-one conversation, they say, and Knight never has a commentary. It needs to be addressed in open. It needs to be addressed in an open meeting, in an open forum, and we need to stop. Let me say this, Mr. Williams, and I have a point for saying what I'm saying. And if I need to tell you, my thing is we need to address it in an open forum, in an open meeting, and not these sidebars, because at the end of the day, it appears more like a witch hunt, and not having the city's interest at heart. One of the ways I transact business with the city, at the church, or wherever, let's be forthright on top of the table when addressing issues, and not the sidebars.
Okay, well, here's the front bar. There is no contract not being signed by the mayor in this city. Please, let's stop talking about this, because we're making a subject matter that we don't need to make. Okay. Period.
Please let me say something, because Vice Mayor, you said it the last meeting, and you said it in it last night, tonight. I don't act on what people say. You said it last week when you said that that we don't function on hearsay. But anyway, I can't. I'm nervous now, but I can't say. But you said that, and I don't hear her say. She say I go for you say. What I say, I have said heard you say. So I'm on my own person. I don't like it what say what see. Anyway, I'm tired now, but I talk to you later on in this meeting about what I'm saying.
Talk to who?
You, both of you. I'm nervous now, and I can't function like I want to. I'm addressing you and him too.
Addressing me about what?
Yeah, I can talk to you in the meeting.
Okay.
And Mayor, you know what I'm talking about. Cause you know he signed a contract that you should have had signed. You should have signed, not him.
Thank you. Commissioner Hill, final comments? Thank you, Mayor. Meeting is adjourned.